Chapter 658. Early in the morning, birdsong could be heard. In the mountains behind Fairy's capital, there was a garden that occupied a part of the landscape. Autumn was coming and the maple leaves were red. The weather was cool in the morning. In a spacious room on the east side of the garden, a young lady in a red and white dress sat on the windowsill. She looked at the birds flying in the forest in the distance and sighed. Who am I exactly? Xianxia stared blankly at the dew dripping down the windowsill and murmured, Who is that person? Linmu. Who is he to me? Why do I have such a strong feeling for him? Why can't I do anything to him? I'd rather die than hurt him. At this moment knocking sounds could be heard. Someone was knocking on the door. Xianxia looked over and asked, Who is it? It's me, Feng Ning. Feng Ninger's voice came from outside the door. Come in. Xianxia raised her palm and opened the door with her divine power. Feng Ninger was dressed in a white dress and looked like a beautiful angel. Behind her were two maids who were holding plates of fruits, food, and soup. She walked in with a smile and said, Princess Xi, it's time for breakfast. I don't feel like eating. Thank you, Ninger. You're welcome. Feng Ninger walked closer to the windowsill and looked at Xiaoxi's lonely expression. She couldn't help but feel sorry for her and said, Are you all right? I'm fine. Xiaoxi looked at Feng Ning. For more than a month Feng Ning would visit her almost every day. He was also the only person she could talk to. She said, Your Highness Ning, are you my friend? Of course we're friends. Have you forgotten Princess Xi? When we were in Lanyan City you often came to visit me too. Then, can I ask you something? Xiaoxi murmured. Sure. Feng Ning glanced behind her and said, Put down your things and leave. No one is allowed to come in without my permission. Yes, your highnesses. The maids bowed respectfully and left. Now ask away. Feng Ning smiled and jumped onto the windowsill, sitting there foolishly like Xiaoxi. Who am I? Xiaoxi asked. Who am I? Xiaoxi asked. I mean my other identity. Xiaoxi looked at her deeply and said, The other identity that I have forgotten. Who exactly am I? You're Xiaoxi, Great Qin Empire's auxiliary princess. Then, who is of Linmu? His Royal Highness Prince Qin. Feng Ning hesitated. What, is it inconvenient to say? No. Feng Ning bit her red lips and said, He is a person who would risk his life for you, but 5 years ago, you personally killed his lover. Then, what's my relationship with him? You have to ask yourself, Feng Ning said softly. Xiaoxi suddenly felt a sharp pain in her head. She couldn't help but hug her knees, burying her face in her skirt. I can't remember who I am. Why is it like this? Sacred teacher ordered me to kill Linmu. Why is it like this? Feng Ning gently held her shoulders but did not know how to comfort her. In the past few years Xiaoxi, Linmu and Qin Yin had experienced too much and tasted the joys and sorrows of the world. But what could they do? This was the world. Everyone was like a chess piece controlled by the changes in the world. Feng Ning had long given up hoping that Linmu would love him. His only wish was that the heavens would not torture him anymore. Even for Linmu defeating the demon race, Feng Ning could not hate her at all. At this moment, a gentle and penetrating voice came from outside the door. Excuse me, is Highness Xi here? I am Pei Sun and I seek an audience with Highness Xi. Again. Feng Ning frowned. These days, Pei Sun had been running to the palace in the back mountain more and more frequently. Anyone could see that Pei Sun had fallen in love with Xiaoxi the first time he saw her, but Feng Ning actually felt inexplicably resistant to Pei Sun's pursuit of Xiaoxi. Perhaps in the depths of her heart, Xiaoxi only belonged to Linmu. No one else was qualified to touch Xiaoxi. However, Pei Sun was one of the 7 Empyrean gods in the mortal world after all. Even if they didn't give him face, they still had to give face to the powerful deity King Yongli. Even the demon emperor and the sacred saint were very respectful to these 7 Empyrean gods, let alone others. Come in, Lord Pei Sun. Yes. After pushing the door open, Pei Sun carried a bamboo basket filled with freshly picked fruits. In addition, there was a bouquet of unknown flowers on top of the basket. Immediately, a strange fragrance filled the room. So Highness Ninger is here too. Pei Sun smiled. Then, as if ignoring Feng Ning'e, he walked forward and bowed elegantly to Tang Xiaoxi. Pei Sun greets Highness Shi. I have brought fresh wild fruits from the mountains and a bouquet of flowers that have just bloomed. I hope that Highness Shi will be in a good mood today. Thank you, Lord Pei Sun. Tang Xiaoxi was still hugging her knees as she sat there silently. She looked at the magnificent mountains and rivers outside the window and said, "If there is nothing else, please return, Lord Pei Sun. I would like some peace and quiet. Moreover, Lord Pei Sun is from the Heaven Realm and is busy with official business. I will not stay any longer." Pei Sun was slightly embarrassed and said, "Highness Shi, if you are not in a good mood, Pei Sun has a good suggestion. There is a waterfall at the back of the mountain. The sound of water is murmuring. Why not, Highness Shi, ride a horse under the waterfall? I am willing to accompany you." "No need. Thank you," Tang Xiaoxi said indifferently. Then, Pei Sun cupped his fists helplessly and said, Then I will take my leave. I will come again tomorrow. I will not send you off. Take care, Lord." "Yes." After leaving the door, Pei Sun's handsome face was filled with embarrassment. Huang, who was guarding outside, couldn't help but laugh. "It seems that the door has been shut in my face again. Pei Sun, you are a god from the upper realm, but you can't do anything to a woman from the lower realm. When you return to the northern heaven realm, you will definitely become a laughingstock." Shut up." Pei Sun looked at him coldly. His entire body was enshrouded in light. He looked at Huang with the power of the law of light. Huang was speechless. Although he was well versed in the law of chaos, Pei Sun's light sword and light shield were very powerful. It was better not to provoke him. Huang rubbed his nose and said, "Actually, you don't need to waste your energy. If you really like Tang Xiaoxi, you can just go to Feng Yuan and ask for her hand in marriage. Tang Xiaoxi is his third daughter. As long as you ask for her hand in marriage, would Feng Yuan dare to refuse? A melon that is forcefully picked won't be sweet." Pei Sun loosened his clenched fists and said, "But I will not give up. I will wait until the day Tang Xiaoxi is willing to accept me." Huang also frowned. "You genteel people are really troublesome. Things between men and women are so simple. Isn't it just taking off your pants and riding on top of each other? Yet you romantic people make it sound so poetic. You're simply unreasonable." Pei Sun looked at him coldly. "Why, do you want to have a taste of the holy sort of light again?" "Humph." Huang couldn't help but tremble and said, "Let's go. Sir Divine King Yongli is summoning us. You can't delay important matters for a woman, can you? Let's go." The two leaped up and disappeared at the same time. Crackle. Lightning spread in the air. In the blink of an eye, Pei Sun and Huang appeared in the main hall. They saw Demon Emperor Feng Yuan sitting high on the throne. Sage Master and Qianfeng stood on his left and right. Yongli stood below the steps with an extraordinary aura. Although he was a divine king, his strength and status were far above Feng Yuan's. Yongli didn't overpower him. After all, he knew that he was in the lower realm. No matter what he did, he had to rely on Feng Yuan's strength. Pei Sun said respectfully, "Divine King Yongli, what matter do you have for summoning us?" Yongli looked at him deeply and said, "Did Lord Pei Sun go to visit Tang Xiaoxi again?" "Yes, it seems. Lord Pei Sun has forgotten why His Majesty Divine King sent us here? I don't dare to forget." Pei Sun was so frightened that he trembled all over. "It's good that you haven't forgotten." Yongli raised his brows and said, "All right, it's time for us to get down to business. Lin Muyu is in Heaven Connect City. We should take action." "But the God Sealing Stone has not been completely cast. It will take half a month." Pei Sun had a respectful expression and continued, "If we take action now, even if we kill Lin Muyu and obtain her supreme godhead, I'm afraid that half of the godhead's divine power and potential will dissipate because of the master's death. We must use the God Sealing Stone to seal the godhead. This is His Majesty Divine King's order." "I know." Yongli was a little impatient and said, "But we still don't know Lin Muyu's ability. This low god with a supreme godhead can't be underestimated. I plan to test Lin Muyu's strength first. How about the two of you support me?" "Yes, Lord." Yongli turned around and looked at the Demon Emperor, Saint Master and the others. He asked, "Feng Yuan, Lan Hun and Qianfeng, do you have any good suggestions? When is the best time for me to test Lin Muyu's strength?" The Demon Emperor looked at Qianfeng. Qianfeng knew Lin Muyu's habits the best. However, at this time Qianfeng's face was solemn and his brows were tightly knitted. He did not say a word. It seemed that he had always been against the idea of Yang Li and the other upper universe gods assassinating Lin Muyu. After all, it was an unfair duel. Was it fair for a divine king who had cultivated for millions of years to assassinate a young ultimate god in his 30s? Ahem. The demon emperor coughed. At this time Saint Master cupped his fists and said, reporting to Lord Yang Li. Although Lin Muyu has been living in the Longdan army camp in Heaven Connecting City, he would go to the mountain stream 10 miles north of Heaven Connecting City every evening to drink his horse. It's his habit. There are only a few dozen guards accompanying him. Lord can take this opportunity to meet him. All right, please lead the way for me, Lord Lan Hun. I'll be delighted. Chapter 659. When the sun was setting in the west, it became more and more boisterous outside Heaven Connect City. This city, which was constantly being rebuilt, attracted a large number of merchants. Countless timber merchants and stone merchants gathered here, looking for business opportunities everywhere and bargaining loudly with officials and officers of the Longdan army camp. Under the rule of Emperor Qin, the country was civilized and democratic. Everyone was equal, so the merchants became more and more daring. Even many wandering mercenaries and hunters stopped in the temporary wooden hotels outside Heaven Connect City, listening to girls playing and singing with horsehead zither and buying a night of drunkenness with the copper coins exchanged for prey and tasks. People seemed to have forgotten the past that the demon tribe had once wreaked havoc here. They felt that as long as Emperor Qin's Longdan army camp was still stationed here, the world would be at peace and the demon tribe would not dare to invade the human territory anymore. In the Battle of Heaven Connect Province, Emperor Qin's Lin Muyu defeated the main force of the demon tribe and forced them to return to the narrow Heaven Connect Gorge. In the empire, Lin Muyu had become the synonym of the god of war. Her reputation had been firmly above that of Feng Jixing, Xiang Yu, Qin Yan and others. When the news of the victory spread back to Lanyan City, it celebrated for 3 days. The defeat of the demon tribe also meant that the power struggle on the continent finally came to an end, and the empire ushered in the long-awaited peace and prosperity. However, the expeditionary force of the Longdan army camp still lived a very poor life. In the battle with the demon tribe, nearly half of its troops were lost. Therefore, replenishing the troops became the top priority of the Longdan army camp. As a result, there was a temporary recruitment station every 5 miles outside Heaven Connect City, responsible for recruiting adventurers and mercenaries to join the Longdan army camp and become soldiers of the empire. It could not be helped. The troops in Lingnan and Lingbei provinces were also short of manpower. Lin Muyu could not rely on Feng Jixing and Qin Yan for everything. These two kings also worried about Lingdong province. It was said that Feng Jixing even took out his wife's money to buy weapons and equipment to supplement the needs of the Longdan army camp. Now he washed his face with tears in the prince's mansion in Xiang City every day. He felt that he could not marry a wife in this life for the sake of his brother. In the north of Heaven Connect City, more than a dozen intersecting roads led to the forests and counties in the distance. There was an endless stream of pedestrians on the roads, including merchants and adventurers. A row of taverns along the way were already filled with customers. Many of them began to eat here to replenish their strength, then spent a few copper coins to buy some low-quality ale to get themselves drunk. Outside the tavern, a group of mercenaries with battle axes and spears on their shoulders led their skinny horses forward slowly. They were all looking into the tavern, but they had no money in their pockets, so they could only stare at the tavern. In the crowd, a middle-aged mercenary with a dagger on his waist said indifferently, "If this mission is not completed, we can only starve." But it is not so easy to kill a 1,000-year-old spirit beast of the fire attribute. Those old men in Yanming County don't know how powerful spirit beasts are. The man with a battle axe on his shoulder scolded. They only know how to touch the maids' in their blue-tiled houses all day. How would they know that we hunt spirit beasts with our heads on our waists? What are you grumbling about? The middle-aged mercenary sneered. If we don't have the lives of old men, then we can only accept our fate. Let's go, we will set up camp outside the forest. Tonight we will just eat flatbread. As for tomorrow, whether we can eat meat or not depends on whether your axes are accurate. Yes. At the recruitment station set up by the road, a thin and weak recruit hurriedly waved his hand and said, "Warriors, since you are going into the mountains to hunt, Why don't you join the Longdan army camp? Be a warrior fighting for the honor of the empire. Get lost. The mercenary with the battle axe said coldly, the honor of the empire can fill my stomach and give me a woman. If it can't, then who are you trying to fool? Only a fool would work for those idiots. Shut up before I get angry and split your head open with my axe. The recruit was speechless and did not dare to say anything else. The mercenaries along the way were not easy to deal with. After all, they were all masters of blood. At this moment, a person wearing the armor of a high-ranking military officer rode past. It was Lin Muyu. The 3 imperial gold stars on her collar were shining brightly. The recruit hurriedly walked to the side of the road and saluted, Your Highness, Emperor Qin. Lin Muyu smiled cheerfully, Thank you for your hard work. It's not hard at all. Thank you, Your Highness. The recruit was so excited that his face turned red. One of the legendary 4 heroes of Lan and Yen, Emperor Qin Lin Muyu actually spoke to him and even consoled him. He was the legendary hero of the empire who turned the tide. Such a legendary hero actually spoke to him. The recruit stood there happily. His heart was filled with joy. The unhappiness of being insulted by the mercenary just now was swept away. He watched Lin Muyu leave with dozens of cavalrymen. He knew that Emperor Qin Lin Muyu would pass by here almost every day at this time. He would go to the mountain stream to drink the horses and wash them, but he rarely stopped to talk to anyone. Less than 5 kilometers away from Tongtian City, a continuous mountain range appeared in the forest. There was a mountain stream between 2 low hills. The water was gurgling and the grass on both sides was very fertile. Lin Muyu dismounted and walked over with Takshu. Takshu was born from Tang Xiaoxi's snow pear. It was a gift from Qin Yin. These 2 confidants only left it as a memento. Therefore, no matter how busy Lin Muyu was, she would personally wash Takshu every day. Lin Muyu led the horse into the shallow waters of the mountain stream and used a brush to scrub the horse's fur repeatedly. Takshu snorted happily and used the horse's hooves to step on the water, splashing all over Lin Muyu. The group of guards on the shore laughed out loud. Bai Yin also led his horse to wash it. He asked, Your Highness, I heard that you've been living with Ouyang Yen recently? There were not many people in the Longdan army camp who dared to joke with Lin Muyu like this. Bai Yin was one of them. After all, he was a loner. He was a criminal wanted by the imperial court and did not care about his life anymore. Who said that? I didn't touch her. Lin Muyu retorted. However, after she finished speaking, she felt that her rebuttal was too weak. It was as if she had not said anything at all. Bai Yin chuckled and did not say anything. A few minutes later, the flowing water in the mountain stream suddenly became much slower, as if it had been cut off by someone. Lin Muyu could not help but frown. He raised his head and looked upstream. Just as he was looking, he saw a person with a profound aura standing above the mountain stream. The divine power under his feet had blocked the entire stream. This person must be an extremely powerful cultivator. He could actually get close to Lin Muyu without making a sound even though he had released the spiritual pulse technique. His cultivation was definitely above Lin Muyu's. You're Lin Muyu? The person had a faint smile on his face. That's me. Who are you? Lin Muyu put down the brush that was brushing the horse. He raised his hand and casually pulled out the star's sword. His movements were slow, but it made people feel that he was extremely firm and calm. The person on the mountain stream smiled coldly and said, One of the divine kings of the northern heaven realm. My name is Yang Li. You're the god who came to the broken cauldron realm a month ago, right? That's right, that's me. Yang Li smiled and said, I heard that you're very strong, so I specially came to have a look. Lin Muyu, you must duel with me without holding anything back. Otherwise you will die. As he spoke, frost with a radius of tens of meters flew up from Yang Li's body. In the blink of an eye, everything in the upper reaches of the mountain stream was frozen, as if it was a harsh winter. Lin Muyu naturally knew how powerful it was. He handed the reins of the warhorse to Bai Yin and said in a low voice, Bring everyone back to the camp immediately. Bai Yin did not intend to disobey. The feeling that Yang Li gave him was that of a crushing existence. In fact, as long as Yang Li was willing, a divine king's telekinesis power could kill Bai Yin. Your Highness, what should we do? A group of guards said angrily. Many of them had been following Lin Muyu since Lanyan City. Even if they died, they were unwilling to leave Lin Muyu here alone. Go, this is an order. Lin Muyu waved his hand and said in a low voice, "I'm fine, don't worry. What are you waiting for? Let's go." With a shout, Bai Yin led everyone on the treading snow warhorses and galloped away from this place. Yang Li did not stop them. A few more people appeared behind him. They were all godly venerable level cultivators, and one of them was a saint master. Lin Muyu's heart immediately sank. They did not come with good intentions. Moreover, there were so many of them at once. Unless she was a god emperor, how could she escape? Yang Li seemed to see through Lin Muyu's thoughts. Ice and snow rapidly circled around his arm and condensed into a frost sword. He smiled and said, "Don't worry, these gods are just here to support me. They won't make a move. Also, you don't have to worry that I will kill you. As long as you don't die after exchanging 10 moves with me, I will let you go." 10 moves? Lin Muyu frowned. It had been a long time since she heard such words. How long had it been since someone spoke to her so arrogantly? However, Yang Li had the qualifications. The divine power of the law of ice seemed to freeze everything, turning the surroundings several miles into winter. This was a divine king with a forged immortal fate. In an instant, the divine power of the frost divine power reached up to 50 layers of grotto heavens. This was not something that Lin Muyu's mere 10-layer grotto heavens could compare to. However, Lin Muyu's advantage was the tyrannical strength of her sovereign personality, as well as the power of the stellar art and 7 luminaries. He had to give it her all. Otherwise she might die here today. Since there was a promise of 10 moves, she would strike first. Buzz. The stellar sword began to hum and tremble due to the concentration of divine energy. Streams of stellar energy gathered in the sword and turned into a freezing cold chi. Lin Muyu moved her feet and turned into a bolt of lightning, charging straight at the divine king. Her instantaneous movement speed was so fast that even Pei Sun Huang Yi and the others were dumbfounded. This lower realm god really lived up to his name. This kind of speed. Even in the heaven realm, it was extremely tyrannical. It was a pity that his opponent was a well-known figure among the northern heaven realm divine kings. Yang Li. Chapter 660. First appearance of the stars. A dazzling radiance flickered on the star's sword, and an endless amount of supreme god energy gathered on the blade. There was a total of 10 waves, and each wave was stronger than the previous one. "Come at me." Yang Li laughed brazenly as he brandished the frost longsword in his hand and swept it horizontally. Frost swirled around the blade, and layers of ice attribute god energy gushed out like a river bursting through a dam. Bang! An incomparably violent cyclone burst forth with the two of them as the core. The wind caused the Saint Sovereign and the others to have to use their god energy to stabilize themselves. The two people at the core of the collision were incomparably shocked. Yang Li's palm that was holding the invisible sword felt a little numb. Lin Muyu's attack contained an endless amount of star energy, and it seemed to be able to deal a certain amount of damage to a god's body. However, when the power of the initial appearance of the starlight splashed out, the layers of golden protective walls around Yang Li blocked the energy one after another, creating ripples. Divine wall. Yang Li was actually a god that comprehended the god wall. Lin Muyu complained incessantly, and the star's sword transmitted the vibration of Yang Li's attack. The attack of a god king was extremely terrifying, and layers of frost waves swept over, crashing against Lin Muyu's body and spirit. Furthermore, there was a total of 57 waves, and within half a second, all of them were spat out together with this attack. In an instant, Lin Muyu was forced back. Thief! A cyclone mixed with water spun on the ground, and Lin Muyu was forced back nearly 10 meters. There was a deep ravine under her feet, and all the cobblestones on the ground were turned into powder by the collision of the two gods' power. The stream behind Yang Li was completely frozen, and it was enough to show how terrifying this god king's power was. Not bad. A trace of killing intent flashed across Yang Li's eyes. He shook his wrist that was numbed by the first appearance of the stars and smiled. Never thought that there would be someone in the lower realm who could receive one of my attacks without getting injured. Not simple at all. Lin Muyu furrowed her brows tightly. She stood several tens of centimeters above the ground and quickly soothed the impact of the frost divine power in her meridians. The frost on her entire right arm also quickly shattered, proving that she still had the strength to fight. However, this Yang Li was a little too powerful. He was actually able to unleash a 57-wave attack. This meant that he was already close to the peak of the God King realm. Perhaps he only needed an opportunity to step into the ranks of the God-Emperor realm. How terrifying was the strength of such a person! At the same time, the sacred master who was standing on the hill was also shocked. He was well aware of Lin Muyu's strength. If there was no one to help him, he might not even be able to receive 5 of Lin Muyu's moves and be killed. But in front of him, Lin Muyu was actually in a difficult situation after receiving Yang Li's first move. Perhaps after Yang Li's 10 moves were used up, Lin Muyu would be a dead god. Pei Sun, Huang Yi, Zhou Xi, Lu Jin, Zhu He and Chong Fan, the 6 gods from the northern heaven realm, were much calmer. In their eyes, this was a battle that could be imagined. They were very clear of Yang Li's strength, and Lin Muyu was just a beginner god of the first heaven of the god realm's 10th paradise. The disparity in strength between the two could be said to be like heaven and earth, and the outcome was already very clear. Pei Sun raised the corner of his mouth and said, "It seems that the owner of the sovereign lattice is only a thief." Huang Yi raised his battle axe and said coldly, "However, to be able to exchange moves with Divine King Yang Li, he can be considered to be capable. If it was any other god, I'm afraid that he would have been killed in the first move." The sacred master was silent, and the expression on his face was very ugly. On the other hand, Yang Li was somewhat proud of himself. A smile appeared on the corner of his mouth and he said, "Lin Muyu, if you admit defeat, kneel down and kowtow to me 3 times, then I will let you go. Today I will not make things difficult for you, how about it? Kowtow your grandma." In the face of mockery, Lin Muyu had always fought back confidently. With a light flick of his wrist, a golden gourd vine came out of his body and quickly disintegrated, fusing with the god-binding chains in his left hand. In the blink of an eye, it converged into a 7 luminaries celestial sword that was added to the star's sword. It seemed that all the gods in the heaven realm disdained to use their martial souls, but Lin Muyu was different. The dual martial soul fusion was one of his trump cards. Just now he did not use his martial soul, so he was forced back. This time he would know who was better when he tried again. Leaping up, Lin Muyu's body stopped in the air and looked down at Yang Li. The power of the stars in the sky continuously gathered on the long sword, turning into blood-red rocks and stardust. This move was the prelude to the 5 mountains descend from the heavens. Interesting. Yang Li raised his head and looked at Lin Muyu. He couldn't help but burst into laughter. "Looks like I have no choice but to use my true power. Come, I'll let you have a taste of the extreme frost realm." As he said that, Yang Li suddenly waved his right hand. The long sword seemed to have pierced through the plane's wall, and a huge crack appeared on his right hand. Inside the crack, there was a magnificent scene of snow in a foreign world. Thousands of miles of snow were fluttering and the world was frozen. Endless power of frost was gathering. This divine king was actually directly absorbing divine power from the foreign world. Lin Muyu couldn't help but be stunned. No wonder Yang Li didn't use his martial soul, because he didn't need it at all. "Come." Yang Li switched from defense to offense and took the initiative to attack. His long sword swept towards the sky, bringing with it flowers of terrifying icy light. In an instant the entire space seemed to be frozen. Lin Muyu had never felt such cold before and she almost couldn't move her arms. At the moment of imminent peril, she suddenly let out a roar, and the Supreme Being Lattice's golden light shone brightly. A powerful fire intent broke through the frozen space, and the 5 mountains descend from the heavens also slashed down. Boom! The earth trembled and the stellar energy and frost collided violently. In an instant the air and the surroundings exploded. The collision between the 2 high god experts was too frightening, and even the ground started to crack. Deep trenches that were several meters wide appeared, as if the end of the world had arrived. The stellar energy of the 5 mountains descend from the heavens continuously clashed with Yang Li's frost. This was a contest of strength. The Supreme Being Lattice in Lin Muyu's High seemed to have sensed the appearance of a strong enemy, and it tried its best to generate divine power to assist in the battle. However, there was still a huge disparity in strength between them. Explosions sounded in the surroundings, and it was the collision between the waves of gods. The sound was very dense. Lin Muyu's 10 layers wave could only withstand Yang Li's 32nd layer Grotto Heaven wave, and she had to rely on her body to withstand the next 25 layers. Bang bang bang. Within a second the impact of the waves completely tilted on the dragon blood battle shield, and it was like a concentrated ice arrow bombarding it. Lin Muyu had never experienced such strength before. The dragon blood battle shield was instantly shattered, and he slid back dozens of meters to avoid the aftershock of Yang Li's attack. He felt a sweetness in his throat and he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. However, he tried his best to hold it in, and his Yi and Qi Si merged together to quickly recover the damage to his body. Yang Li held the long sword condensed from frost and frowned. He originally thought that this attack would be enough to seriously injure Lin Muyu, but he did not expect that it would not be able to do anything to him. This was an attack that he used 80% of his divine power. How strong was this brat? He was actually able to challenge a divine king from the upper worlds without showing any signs of losing? Lin Muyu was still hovering in the air, and divine power shone around him. The 12 spirit beads of law had already appeared, and he did not hide the fact that he had the supreme being lattice. He also knew that it was useless to hide it. This group of people was most likely here for his supreme being lattice. If he was not careful, he would also end up like Ouyang Yan. How much time do you need to recover? The corner of Yang Li's mouth curled up. He seemed to have noticed that Lin Muyu still suffered some internal injuries and said, "I'll give it all to you." "No need," Lin Muyu said firmly. The tyrannical strength of the supreme being lattice lay in the super-fast recovery speed. If his power was damaged, so would Yang Li's. Since that was the case, there was no need to wait for too long. He leaped up and raised his palm in the cold wind. A purple sun quickly condensed, and the purple sun shakes the earth was about to descend. Good heavens! After seeing the purple sun's radiance, Yang Li actually felt an inexplicable timidity in his heart. However, half a second later, it was completely swept away and replaced with arrogance and haughtiness. Raising his long sword horizontally, countless frost flew around him. This was the first time Yang Li had adopted a completely defensive stance since the start of the battle. Night had fallen and the huge purple sun in Lin Muyu's palm looked even more ferocious. Yang Li said coldly, "Pei Sun Huang Yi, step back a little. Don't get affected by his power." Pei Sun frowned. "So Yang Li, is he really that strong? I told you to step back, so step back. What's with the nonsense?" "Yes." The 6 gods quickly retreated dozens of meters, and the Saint Sovereign had already retreated hundreds of meters. He had experienced the purple sun shakes the earth before, and he didn't want to experience it again. "Come on." Yang Li continuously activated his divine power, and the image of a huge ancient shield actually condensed in front of his sword. The divine power was vast, and this shield's defensive ability was extraordinary. In the air, Lin Muyu launched an attack without saying a word. He suddenly threw the power of the purple sun down, and it was like a scorching sun falling to the ground. Boom! Flames soared into the sky. The purple sun shakes the earth was a fire elemental power, and it was incompatible with Yang Li's ice shield. The shockwave produced by the explosion swept through the surrounding valley for dozens of miles. Although the divine power contained in the purple sun shakes the earth was still only at the 10th level of the grotto heaven level, it made Yang Li's bones feel a burning pain. Ice elemental gods hated fire elemental divine power the most, and it just so happened that Lin Muyu was an elementary god who was proficient in fire elemental laws. Amidst the chaotic attacks, Yang Li roared continuously. His iron fist descended from the sky and forcefully smashed on the surface of the purple sun. He roared angrily, "Die for me, bastard!" Under the impact of 57 layers of frost waves, the purple sun was actually forcefully smashed into pieces. But the moment Yang Li raised his head, he saw a long sword with flames lingering around it attacking his head at high speed. It was Lin Muyu's star's sword, Dragon Flame Spiral Break. Yang Li was shocked. What a strong recovery speed. He had just used the purple sun shakes the earth and he immediately used the sword blade spiral attack. This kid was indeed a true freak. Chapter 661. Although Yang Li possessed the divine wall ability, he was naturally unwilling to take the risk. In a hurry, he swung his head to the side and barely dodged the blade. However, the fire force produced by the rapid rotation of the stellar sword still tore open the divine wall beside Yang Li's cheek. Although it was only a centimeter-long gap, blood had already appeared on Yang Li's cheek. To a divine king, this was a great humiliation. "You're courting death." Yang Li let out a shout and raised his ice sword to smash away the star's sword. The wind whistled past his ears. Lin Muyu held an inconspicuous dagger in her hand and slashed at Yang Li's neck. It was the demonic noise blade. For a moment, Yang Li complained incessantly in his heart. His strength was definitely above Lin Muyu's, but what could he do? This kid was like a desperate man. He didn't use any palm techniques at all, but each and every move was fatal. How was this a martial arts competition? It was more like a slaughter, a battle between beasts. Dang! Yang Li's wrist guard blocked the attack of the demonic noise saber. He raised his leg and kicked at Lin Muyu's abdomen. It was a simple kick, but the divine wave contained in it was not simple. Furthermore, there were 57 waves. Peng! The godly king's speed was not inferior to Lin Muyu's. This kick was very experienced. Lin Muyu instantly spat out a mouthful of blood. However, a gourd vine also silently wrapped around the godly king's other leg. Lin Muyu was originally one with her martial soul. With a thought, the gourd vine quickly pulled her back. She raised her iron fist that was surrounded by the law of fire and punched Yang Li's chin. Yang Li lost his balance from the pull of the gourd vine. How could he dodge it? He took the punch. Peng! Golden light splattered. This fierce punch did not penetrate the divine wall, but it made Yang Li groan in pain. His chin was almost dislocated. He opened his left hand and grabbed Lin Muyu's arm. His right hand formed an elbow strike and attacked from above. With a muffled groan, Lin Muyu's shoulder blade felt like it had been shattered. Every casual attack from Yang Li was accompanied by 57 layers of waves. Naturally, Lin Muyu did not have it easy. After being hit by an elbow, she knelt in the middle of the frozen stream, her knees smashing into the ground, forming a huge pit. Looking up, Lin Muyu gathered almost all her strength into her right fist and threw a punch at Yang Li's abdomen. 5 elements, 8 desolation. Diwu Yao gathered the divine energy from all directions into a single point, and that single point was Lin Muyu's fist. When the 7 luminaries' profound energy within that fist exploded, Yang Li could not help but feel a sweet taste in his throat, and he looked like he was about to spit out a mouthful of blood. No, he had to endure. As a divine king, he could not embarrass himself like this. Yang Li tried his best to protect his body. His abdomen was hit continuously and the divine wall had already started to crack. He suddenly opened his arms and grabbed Lin Muyu's shoulder and threw him out. Peng! Lin Muyu's body was heavily embedded into the stone mountain at the side. 7 moves. 8 moves. 9 moves. 10 moves. Not far away, Honest Desolation shouted, "Divine King Yang Li, you've already exchanged 10 moves. Is that kid dead yet?" Yang Li frowned and looked at the big hole in the mountain wall. Although Lin Muyu was in a sorry state, he could still feel his aura. This kid was only injured. He was not dead yet. No, he is lucky. Yang Li said coldly, "Let's go. We will let him go today." Yes. The group of Heaven Realm gods disappeared on the spot. In the deep hole in the mountain wall, Lin Muyu held a ball of starlight in his left hand. His 7 glorious stars transformation was already half done. If Yang Li dared to come, he would greet him directly. However, he was slightly disappointed that Yang Li left with the group of Heaven Realm gods. It seemed like he had no intention to kill him. After dispersing the power of the stars, he walked out of the pile of rubble with the help of his star sword. The Qin King armor that he was wearing was already in tatters. It seemed like he needed to change into a new set. His shoulder and abdomen were injured. Yang Li's 57 layered waves were indeed powerful. It was not something a normal person could withstand. At this moment, the sound of flapping wings came from the sky. It was a green bird. Qingyu had found him. Lin Muyu smiled and let Qingyu land on his arm. "What's wrong?" Qingyu chirped, as if he was very concerned about his master's safety. A few seconds later, a blood-red crack was torn open in front of them. Ouyang, dressed in fiery red, came over. Seeing Lin Muyu's miserable appearance, she was startled. "How did this happen? Who is it?" "Yang Li, do you know him?" "Yang Li." Ouyang walked forward and held onto Lin Muyu's arm, letting him hold onto her shoulder. She frowned. "This name sounds familiar, but he doesn't seem to be a god from the Eastern Heaven Realm." "Yes, I heard he's from the Northern Heaven Realm." "Northern Heaven Realm?" Ouyang squinted her eyes. "I remember now. I saw this person at the Divine King competition 3,000 years ago. He was a divine king who could perfectly control the law of ice. At that time, many people thought highly of him. They thought that he would definitely be able to cultivate a divine spark and become the ruler of the law of ice." "He won't." Lin Muyu grinned miserably. "Why not?" Because I will kill him before he becomes a divine king. Yo, I've never seen someone like you before. You're still bragging after being beaten up like this. I'm impressed by a supreme god like you. Ouyang smiled charmingly. Lin Muyu glanced at her, feeling a little awkward. After hanging out with her for a long time, it seemed that these gods would all be influenced and lose their moral integrity. The 7 luminaries demon emperor was like this, and so was Ouyang. However, speaking of which, these 2 people did not have any moral integrity in the first place. Hurry up and go back to heal. I only left you for a short while and you're already like this. Ouyang was still quite concerned about this new friend of hers. After returning to the Longdan army camp, Wei Chou, Situ Sin, Situ Shui and the others were shocked. They sent medicine and so on. The medical officer from the spiritual medicine department who accompanied the army also came over to treat her. Although he did not have the medical skills of Chu Yao, his medical skills were much better than Lin Muyu's. After all, Lin Muyu was only good at refining medicine, but she knew almost nothing about medical skills. After applying medicine and bandaging, she basically had to spend the next few days in bed. The housekeeper, Situ Shui, also strictly ordered Lin Muyu not to drink horses in the future. She claimed that there was plenty of water in the Longdan army camp, enough for Taxi to drink for the rest of her life. The Longdan army camp was garrisoned with 100,000 people in the sky connecting city, and they were all elites. Their strength was obvious. Even a divine king like Yongli had to be wary of the power of the Longdan army camp. After all, although a god could easily kill a cultivator below the sanctuary realm, in the face of endless battle formations and sharp arrows, there was still a possibility of being killed. Once their power was exhausted, the only difference between a god and a mortal was their state of mind and cultivation. The night was quiet. In the sky-connecting gorge, a star danced in the grass and forest. It was a firefly. Tang Xiaoxi was still sitting on the windowsill. Looking at the fireflies flying up and down in the distance, she could not help but feel a little upset. It seemed that she could no longer remember who she was, and it was said that Divine King Yongli and the others had gone to kill Lin Muyu. She actually felt worried for no reason. Knock knock. There was a knock on the door. It was Feng Ning'er's voice. Xiaoxi, can I come in? Yes. Feng Ning'er pushed the door open and entered. With a mysterious smile on her face she said, I've asked around. Lin Muyu is fine. He is only seriously injured and Divine King Yongli did not want to kill him. Why are you telling me this? Tang Xiaoxi looked at her faintly and said, Lin Muyu is my opponent. I don't care about his life or death. If Yongli really killed him, I will be happy for the Protoss. Is it really like this? Feng Ning'er giggled and gently held Tang Xiaoxi's snow-white legs. She tilted her head and looked at her beautiful face under the moonlight. She smiled and said, If it wasn't because you care about him, I'm afraid you would have already fallen asleep at this time, right? Tang Xiaoxi wanted to explain, but all the explanations seemed so powerless. Feng Ning'er seemed to see through her. She smiled and said, Xiaoxi, if you really want to know who you are and want to find yourself, you must face your heart and face your true self bravely. Tang Xiaoxi said with a faint gaze, I don't want to know who I am. What? Feng Ning'er asked in surprise. Tang Xiaoxi's voice was indescribably calm. I lost my memory and can't remember anything in the past. And deep in my consciousness I have to listen to the Holy Master. So, the Holy Master is someone who has controlled me. Since he has controlled me, he must be my enemy. And no matter what my original intentions were, I must have hurt many people close to me. So I don't want to remember who I am. I would rather die of old age here. Feng Ning'er stood in place in shock. Tang Xiaoxi, who was sitting on the windowsill, was far wiser than she had imagined. Perhaps she had already seen through everything, but she was just unwilling to wake up. You should be glad that you didn't kill Lin Muyu, Feng Ning'er murmured. Why? Because you were originally as close as lovers. Lovers? Tang Xiaoxi was silent. After a while she said, Ning'er, you go back first. I'm tired. I want to sleep. Okay, have a good sleep. We'll talk about tomorrow's matters tomorrow. After Feng Ning'er left, Tang Xiaoxi didn't go to sleep. How could she sleep on such a night? After a long time, a ray of light in the night sky fluttered in the forest as if it had a mind of its own. As it approached, as if it had been summoned, a group of fireflies soon arrived in front of Tang Xiaoxi's window. Fireflies? Tang Xiaoxi looked at the whole group of fireflies in a daze. However, these fireflies danced in groups and actually condensed into a human figure. Suddenly they dispersed and an old man hovered in the air. His body was enshrouded in divine power, and there was a smile on his old and hearty face. Princess Xi, how have you been all these years? Chapter 662. Chu. Tang Xiaoxi raised her head and looked at the old man in front of her with her bright eyes. She didn't even know who this old man was, but she could call out his name as if he was someone she was very familiar with in her previous life. It's rare that Princess Xi still remembers this old man's name. Chu looked lovingly at Tang Xiaoxi's tired expression and said, "You must have suffered here. The feeling of having your soul sealed must not be good, right?" Tang Xiaoxi felt wronged as if she was in great pain and said, "Chu, please release the shackles that are restricting my memory." Those are not the shackles that are restricting you." Chu leisurely sat by the window and looked at the starry sky outside. He said softly like a grandfather, "The shackles that the demon race Saint Master placed on you are just a prelude. The real person who is restricting you is you, Princess Xi. Only by calmly accepting everything in the past can you find your true self. No one can help you with this. You can only rely on yourself. Do you understand?" "What should I do?" Tang Xiaoxi held her head in pain. "It's fine. Everything will be fine." Chu caressed Tang Xiaoxi's beautiful hair dotingly and said, "But you must always remember that you loves you and so does Xiaoyin. No one has let you down and you shouldn't let each other down. But now, you've let Xiaoyin down and you've let you down. You is now in danger and needs your strength. You can't continue to sink like this. You have to find yourself. You're Tang Xiaoxi with the nine-tailed spiritual lattice. You're the ruler of flames." Tang Xiaoxi looked at her hands and said, "But my hands are covered in blood and among them is Xiaoyin's blood." Many fragments of memories suddenly flashed through her mind, including the scene of Qin Yin's body turning into a bloody mist. At this moment, Tang Xiaoxi suddenly felt an indescribable pain and began to cry loudly. Chu didn't say anything and just stayed by her side. After a long time, Tang Xiaoxi looked at Chu with teary eyes and said, "Chu, what should I do now? I can't get over myself. I'm already the third daughter of His Majesty the Divine Emperor." Humph. Chu frowned and said, "The Devil Emperor is merely using you to kill you. If you really dies, then little Xi, you'll really be consigned to eternal damnation and there'll be no turning back." Tang Xiaoxi bit her lips and said, But I killed Xiaoyin." "Xiaoyin Xi," Chu shuddered and said, "Xiaoyin was so kind that she was willing to die for you. It was her destiny. Moreover, Xiaoyin was just a mortal, she couldn't withstand the power of an overgod's godhead. You killed her and she escaped into the 6 paths of reincarnation. After experiencing the 6 paths of heaven and earth, she became a true god. Although you killed her, you helped her." With that, Chu paused and continued, "If you really want to make it up to her, then wake up from the saint's soul seal as soon as possible. Help you overcome this tribulation and help Xiaoyin complete the 6 paths of reincarnation and reunite with her. You are not the 3rd princess of the divine race, you are Tang Xiaoxi. You are Tang Xiaoxi, the Tang Xiaoxi who dares to love and hate. There is no second Tang Xiaoxi in this world." Tang Xiaoxi curled up in pain like an injured wild cat. Her whole body trembled and the saint's seal in her brain started to work again. The pain it brought was no less than being in an abyss of fire. Looking at Tang Xiaoxi's painful state, Chu couldn't help but feel incomparably distressed and said, "Xiaoxi, this is a cultivation between you, Xiaoyin and you. This is the tribulation of the 3 of you. I hope you can endure it. You may have a harder time than Xiaoyin and you. Promise me you must endure it. The future of this continent depends on you." "I know." Tang Xiaoxi raised her head and looked at Chu and asked, "Chu, there are demon races spies everywhere. Saint Masters and demon emperors are all in the divine realm. There are also the 6 gods of the northern heaven realm. You should leave quickly. It's not safe here." "Don't worry, they won't be able to find me, nor will they be able to kill me." Chu smiled and said, "You still don't know, right? My Dao is the Dao of all living things in the world. I can transform into all living things and not be controlled by the laws. I can come and go as I please and no one can do anything to me. It's just that my Dao seems to be too weak. Its power is far inferior to those laws of battle. So I can't help you too much. He needs you." "I know." Tang Xiaoxi tried hard to restrain the restlessness and violence in her heart. Because there was another voice in her heart ordering her to kill Chu Chu. Kill this annoying old man. Chu, you should leave quickly. Tang Xiaoxi said in pain. Chu Chu could naturally see what she was going through. He stood up and said, Xiaoxi, take care of yourself. I'll go to Yu's place. He seems to have experienced a battle of life and death. Tang Xiaoxi replied softly. She looked up and saw Chu Chu's white robe disintegrating and turning into a flock of white birds flying into the distance. It was very magical. Just as Chu Chu said, his Dao was the Dao of all living things in the world. It was ever-changing. Great Deacon, good news. The courtyard of the spiritual medicine department was full of flowers and plants in the imperial capital Lanyan city. Chu Yao planted flowers and plants in her spare time, so the Great Deacon's courtyard was almost full of flowers and plants. At this time she was carefully cultivating a purple Yin flower when she heard the voice of the beautiful alchemist Lan Yan from the spiritual medicine department. Lan Yan had grown up in Lanyan city. Her parents had been killed during the chaos of the Iha nation, so she had been raised by her grandparents. Later, after practicing alchemy, she had become one of the genius alchemists in the spirit medicine division. At a young age, she had already stepped into the ranks of grandmaster alchemists. Because they were both women, she was highly regarded by Chu Yao. Little girl, why are you in such a hurry? You're about to be promoted to a gold star alchemist, but you're still so impatient. Chu Yao turned around and scolded with a smile. Lan Yan chuckled and said, Great Deacon, you don't know? There's an accurate report from the north. His Highness, Prince Qin, defeated the main force of the demon clan Qianfeng, and killed nearly 100,000 of the demon clan's main force in the desert. The demon clan was completely driven into the Tongtian Gorge. Wasn't this news sent back half a month ago? Chu Yao couldn't help but laugh. This time it's different. This time it's accurate news. An envoy came back from Tongtian province and brought back a detailed map of Tongtian province for His Highness King Zhong. Because of this, His Highness King Zhong is very happy, and is currently discussing with Su heir Marquis Xining Su Yu how the imperial capital should reward His Highness King Qin. This, Chu Yao pursed her lips and said with a smile, Yu is the king of Qin, the head of the three kings. He has long been an official of the highest rank. What kind of reward does he need? But, Lan Yan smiled charmingly and said, but there was news today that His Highness Prince Zhong and Marquis Xining Su Yu are planning to establish a branch of the Holy Temple and Spiritual Medicine Department in Tongtian province. They are considering who to send there. Don't tell me that you don't have any ideas, Grand Deacon? You haven't seen Prince Qin for half a year. Ah. Chu Yao was finally moved. Yan and Aunt Lian are planning to move the headquarters of the Spiritual Medicine Department to the Tongtian province? Not really. Lan Yan smiled mischievously and said, however, the war between the Empire and the demon race hasn't ended yet. The eastern region needs a large amount of medicinal herbs and medical officers. Great Deacon, you can go to His Highness Prince Zhong and recommend yourself to go to the eastern region to build the eastern branch hall of the Spiritual Medicine Department. In this case, I guess with your friendship with His Highness Prince Zhong, he won't refuse. This isn't too good. It's like abusing your power for personal gain. Chu Yao blushed and said. Lan Yan curled her lips. Oh, listen to what you're saying. I know that Prince Qin Lin Muyu is your only relative in this world. You two are as close as real siblings. You can go to your relative's side and serve the empire at the same time. Isn't this abusing your power for personal gain? Is it really like this? Yes. But you must take me with you. I also want to join the army and become a medical officer refining medicine for the glory of the empire. Little girl, I know you have your own wishful thinking. Chu Yao rebuked with a smile and said, it's already late. Forget it, we'll go to Zetian Hall tomorrow. Yes. In the east of the empire was a vast sea. It was called the East Sea by the people. The East Sea was very deep and magnificent. Storms would come almost every season, letting the people of the Middle Earth understand the wrath of the sea god. There had always been a saying in the empire, evildoers should not travel far in the East Sea. For thousands of years, the fishermen by the sea never dared to travel too far. Not a single ship that sailed hundreds of miles away from the coastline had ever returned. As for whether there really were evildoers in the sea, no one knew. However, in the middle of this vast East Sea, there was a luxurious island. The dragon-shaped island was half the size of Heaven's pivot province. Could be considered a piece of land on the sea. At the same time, this dragon-shaped island also became the resting place of the southern guardian king, Qin Yi, after his defeat. Nearly 200,000 soldiers of the defeated Iha nation fled their homes and came to the dragon-shaped island. They spent half a month subduing the islanders and gradually re-established the Iha nation's political power here, hoping to sweep through the Middle Earth once again. The Iha nation's war flag fluttered on the entire island. Thousands of soldiers of the Iha nation stood guard here. Back then, it was here that they defeated the empire's fleet sent by Feng Jixing, allowing the Iha nation to continue struggling at death's door. At the very front of the reef stood a man wearing a golden robe. His hair had already turned white and he looked into the distance to the west. That was the direction of the empire. Ding Shi had aged and was no longer the famous general of the Iha nation who was full of vigor. Behind him, Long Qianlin slowly walked over with his hand on the hilt of his sword and said, "Marshal Ding, are you anxiously waiting again?" "Oh, it's Marshal Long." Ding Shi smiled sadly and touched the bag on his waist, which contained a handful of soil he had brought from Xiangyang City, the soil of the central continent. He said sadly, "How long have we been away from our hometown?" "Almost 5 years." "Yes, almost 5 years." Ding Shi nodded and said, "Has Marshal Long ever thought of returning to the Middle Earth?" "Yes." Long Qianlin looked into the distance and said, "But I'm afraid I'll have to wait until the moment I die and have my descendants bring my corpse back to my hometown, Yu City." Ding Shi let out a long sigh and smiled. Success and failure are things that happen throughout the ages. It's hard to tell right from wrong. Chapter 663. The starry sky was like a chessboard, shining bright light on the earth. Outside Tongtian City, the Longdan army camps stretched for 10 miles. The lights were connected and there was an endless stream of sentries coming and going. The sound of horse hooves was messy, but the soldiers in the camp had already fallen asleep. Those who had been in the army for many years had long gotten used to the sound of horse hooves. No matter how noisy it was, they could still sleep peacefully. Lin Muyu sat cross-legged on the bed, rays of starlight swirling in her palm. At the same time, strands of golden spiritual essence that were almost invisible to the naked eye gathered from all directions and seeped into her Yi, nourishing the sovereign personality that was slightly exhausted after being overused. These spiritual essences came from the prayers of the living beings in the Shattered Cauldron world. Faith itself was a kind of power, and Lin Muyu was a supreme god who was proficient in the 12 laws. No matter which law the people in the world prayed to, Lin Muyu would be able to obtain the power of faith. This was probably the strength of the sovereign personality. At the head of the bed, on a wooden frame made of wisteria, Qin Yu stood on it. He closed his eyes and slept, accompanying Lin Muyu. Qin Yu was just a green swan without much consciousness. He didn't even know that he was the reincarnation of Qin Yin, and he didn't even know that the owner in front of him was his lover in his previous life. It was the same for Lin Muyu. It was as if the world was like a knot, entangling and mercilessly tormenting a pair of lovers. Is Yangli really that powerful? Ouyang Yan was only wearing a layer of light muslin, and her beautiful body was faintly discernible as she lay on the opposite bed and asked with a smile. Yes, he can already launch the wave attack of the 57th heavenly cave. Ouyang Yan's mouth turned into an O shape. Oh my god. I never thought that he had already cultivated to such a powerful realm. It must be the divine emperors of the northern heaven realm who are helping him, otherwise he would need at least another 10,000 years to have this kind of cultivation. Don't the god emperors of the heaven realm fight and look down on each other? They actually help each other. You don't understand. Ouyang Yan crossed her long legs at the head of the bed and revealed an incomparably seductive smile as she said, "The myriad of stars are vast and boundless. Currently, only the parts that have been explored are divided into the 4 great heaven realms. However, outside the 4 great heaven realms, there are even more lands that are waiting to be conquered. These lands are called the sky beyond skies. Even within the 4 great heaven realms, there are still many areas that the gods have yet to step into. Therefore, the heaven realms aren't as peaceful as you think. All the major powers want to recruit outstanding talents for their own use. For example, when I had just stepped into the Divine King realm, I received invitations from the Southern Heaven Court, Northern Heaven Court and Eastern Heaven Court. Unfortunately, I rejected all of them. Lin Muyu furrowed her brows. As she healed her injuries, she said, "If my supreme godhead is as powerful as the rumors say, they should be trying to recruit me. However, from Yang Li's attitude it seems like they want to kill me." "That's because you're a lower realm deity. You're not protected by the laws of the heavens beyond heaven." "What do you mean?" "It's like this." Ouyang Yen murmured, "Thousands of years ago, before the top god emperors of the heaven realm ascended to the sky beyond skies, they made an agreement that if a god with the supreme godhead, master godhead and cast immortal godhead appeared in the sky beyond skies, no one was allowed to harm them. Otherwise, the gods of the sky beyond skies would join forces to kill them. Think about it, the cultivation of the god emperors of the sky beyond skies are so abnormal. Gods like Pangu, Nuwa, Fuxi, Zeus and Odin have already entered the sky beyond skies for tens of thousands of years. If the gods of the heaven realm were to provoke them, any one of them would be enough to cause chaos in the heaven realm." Lin Muyu couldn't help but take a deep breath. Listening to Ouyang Yan's words, it was truly an eye-opener. So the gods of the legends were all real. Although they were far away in the sky beyond skies, they still existed. Thinking about this, Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. It seems like the earlier I ascend to the god realm, the safer I will be? In principle, yes. Ouyang Yan blinked her eyes and said with a smile, "If you can part with Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, Feng Jixing, Chu Yao and the others." Lin Muyu was silent for a moment, then opened her mouth and asked, "What's so good about being a god?" Ouyang Yan was surprised, then said with a smile, "Immortality as long as the heavens Xiao Yao is at ease, perhaps." "Don't say it, go to sleep." Lin Muyu looked at Ouyang Yan and said, "Your newborn divine spark is still very immature and needs a lot of rest to nourish it. You have to cherish it. This divine spark is a heavenly Dao spark. I know you should sleep early too." Ouyang Yan turned over and covered herself with a light quilt. She laid on her side with her back facing Lin Muyu, leaving him an extremely beautiful view of her back. Lin Muyu closed her eyes and continued to use the mental cultivation method of the Forging Dragon Bone Remnant Scroll to speed up the recovery of her injuries. Ouyang Yan was naturally proficient in the law of fire and could also be considered a genius. Unfortunately, her divine spark had been taken away by powerful enemies time and time again. A genius's aptitude was a bitter gourd's life. Now that she had pledged herself to Lin Muyu's side, she had to encounter a powerful enemy like Yang Li. The words "fate is full of misfortune" could be used to describe her. After an unknown amount of time, a sudden noise came from outside and Lin Muyu woke up from her light sleep. She opened her eyes and asked, "What's going on?" The one on duty outside was Wei Chou. Although he was Duke Wei Chou was always like a bodyguard and was inseparable from the army. His voice came from outside the tent. "Reporting to your highness, the messenger said that someone who claims to be Chu Chu wants to see you. I wonder if he is really Lord Chu Chu. Please come in." "Yes." Lin Muyu got up, put on a coat and went out to welcome him. Her spirit pulse technique had already faintly sensed a mysterious divine power a mile or two away. It was a divine power that contained the aura of life, but it also contained a strong aura of fire. It must be Chu Chu. He was called the Fire Cauldron Chu Chu by the world, so he was naturally in existence who was proficient in the law of fire. It seemed that Chu Chu had also stepped into the divine realm. She took the reins of Takshu from Wei Chou and got on the horse. She brought Wei Chou by Yin and the others and galloped away. Halfway there she saw Chu Chu walking towards her from afar. It was indeed him. Chu Chu was dressed in a white robe and floated like an immortal. Right now his body was emitting an immortal aura. It was as if he was a completely different person from the previous Chu Chu. Lin Muyu got off the horse and welcomed him with great joy. She knelt on the ground and saluted him. Chu Chu hurriedly held her arms and laughed. There is no need to be so courteous. You are now the head of the 3 kings of the empire, King Qin. An old man like me cannot accept this." Lin Muyu said, "You are my teacher. A teacher for a day is a father for life. Chu Chu, you are worthy of my salute." As he spoke, he broke free from Chu Chu's arms and saluted him seriously. Wei Chou, Bai Yin and the others stood at the side and looked at Chu Chu with a smile. Chu Chu's arrival had greatly strengthened the empire's power and calmed the anxious people's hearts. Now many people in the Longdan army camp already knew that Lin Muyu was injured. The person who injured her was a true god from the heaven realm. The people's hearts had long been shaken. Lin Muyu stood up and held Chu Chu's arm. She smiled and said, Chu, please come into the tent. Servants, prepare a banquet. I want to have a good drink with Chu. Yes, your highness. At this moment Ouyang floated over. She was dressed in a fiery red robe. Chu could not help but squint his eyes and smile. You Chu, this is? This is Ouyang. Good, even she has been subdued by you? Chu asked. This. Just as Lin Muyu was at a loss for words, Ouyang bowed respectfully and said with a smile, I, Ouyang, pay my respects to Lord Fire Cauldron Chu. That's right, I have been subdued by His Royal Highness Emperor Qin and am now his woman. Chu smiled. Good. You are indeed a promising young man. It was useless to explain. Lin Muyu was speechless. Inside the tent, the attendants lit the candles and everyone sat down. Lin Muyu invited Chu to the seat beside her. Wei Chou, Situ Sin, Fingxi, Situ Shui, and the others also accompanied him. Fire Cauldron Chu was one of the great Qin Empire's white-robed imperial guards. He was worthy of everyone's respect. In just a few minutes, wine and delicacies were served. Although it was late at night, the chefs of the spiritual fire department were all prepared. Plates of dry-cut venison, salted red prawns, and other delicacies were served. Chu suddenly waved his hand and smiled. You Chu, I only drink wine. I don't eat meat. Lin Muyu was an intelligent person. She could already see that Chu cultivated not only the law of fire but also the law of life. A god who cultivated the law of life would definitely be able to listen to the cries of all living things and pity the state of the universe. Therefore it was foreseeable that Chu did not eat meat. On the other hand, although she was well versed in the 12 laws, she still could not give up on eating meat. No wonder her cultivation could not improve. Come, change Chu to vegetarian food. Lin Muyu smiled. Chu nodded. The scene fell into a brief moment of awkwardness until Chu looked up at Lin Muyu and said, I went to see Princess Xi. Lin Muyu was originally arranging for the staff of the spiritual fire department to cook some delicious vegetarian food for Chu. After hearing his words, she was immediately stunned and said, Xiaoxi. How is she? She's fine. Chu's voice was very calm as he continued. It's just that the sacred master of the devil race has placed a restriction in the depths of her soul, so she might not be able to do things freely. You have to understand her. Princess Xi is naturally kind. Although she is a little arrogant, she will definitely not hesitate for the people she cares about. Give her a little more time, I believe she will return to the embrace of the empire. Lin Muyu frowned. Chu, do you know that Xiaoxi killed Xiao Yin? I know. A trace of pain appeared on Chu's face. Fate makes fools of people. This matter cannot be explained in a few words. Xiaoxi is indeed in the wrong, but you can't blame her entirely. I don't blame her. I just want to know why she would be so cruel to kill Xiao Yin. Because of Xiao Yin's edict, Tang Lon died. Because of Xiao Yin's existence, Xiaoxi lost you. Because Xiaoxi was controlled by Yaoji, who is good at bewitching people. Are these reasons enough? Chu glanced at Lin Muyu and said, You Chu, ask yourself honestly, are you not in the wrong? Since we met in Kathaya City, I have seen everything between you and Xiaoxi. You should also be able to feel that Xiaoxi loves you. But how much of your love do you share with her? Lin Muyu sat there in a daze, speechless. All right. Chu patted his shoulder lightly and said, These are all in the past. I know that the earth you came from stresses that relationships must be one-on-one, but this is the Shattered Cauldron realm. Moreover, I have already sensed that young men and women on earth may not be one-on-one. Which beautiful woman doesn't have a spare tire that can be counted on one hand? Besides, Xiao Yin and Xiaoxi have been taught that a man can have many wives since they were young. You can try to accept the two of them lest your family affairs cause chaos in the world. Citizen Wei Chou and the others laughed loudly. Bai Yin also smiled and said, That's right, Your Highness. Her Highness Yin is the eldest and Princess Xi is the second. 135 Her Highness Yin 246 Princess Xi, accompany us to a brothel on our last day. Life is so perfect. Lin Muyu wanted to die. You bastards, do you think I'm Zhang Wei? Right, let's drink. Let's not talk about these unhappy things. Yes. Chapter 664. Not long after, Citizen Wei Chou, Bai Yin, Fingxi and the others had drunk too much. They complained that the camp was too stuffy and wanted to go out and ride their horses. Lin Muyu had no choice but to agree to go out for a walk. One man on one horse, the group of dozens of people galloped out of the camp towards the stream a mile away from the camp. This place was very close to the camp and there were continuous patrols nearby, so it was relatively safe. The drunk Situsen suggested, I once heard from Duke Wei Acho that he was still a virgin, and I also heard that virgins can urinate extremely far. Look, this stream is at least 20 meters wide, why don't we have a bet to see who can urinate further? Situ Shue's face immediately flushed red, but the other woman at the scene, Ouyang Yen, curled her lips as if it was a common occurrence. How about this grand aunt be the witness? Hurry up and take it out. Wei Chao's steps were so slippery that he couldn't care less about his status as Duke Wei anymore. He hugged Situsen's shoulder and said, I told you not to call me Acho. Generalson, I'm really not bragging, even the wind is at least 3 meters. Is that so? Is that so? Situsen looked like he had a card up his sleeve and said, Let's go, we won't know if we don't compete. Let's all come together. Whoever can urinate the shortest will treat everyone to a feast at the most expensive new restaurant in Sky Connect City. Do you dare to bet? Why wouldn't I dare? Fengxi and Bai Yin also joined in readily. The 4 generals who controlled close to 200,000 soldiers in the Longdan army camp competed to see who could urinate the furthest. The embarrassing noise was mixed with the night wind. Duke Wei is really amazing, it's a whole 5 meters. General Sin is even further, 30 meters. Damn General Sin, you shameless bastard, you actually concentrated your fighting energy at your roots, shameless bastard. If you bet you lose, Acho. Situ Shui was so embarrassed that she was speechless. She led the horse with Ouyang Yen and ran to the other side to chat. Lin Muyu and Chu Chu stood on the deserted dam upstream of the small river. It was time to continue giving pointers on cultivation. You increase your strength to the strongest realm, let Grandpa see. Chu Chu stood majestically in the wind, smiling. Yes. Lin Muyu let out a low roar, and an invisible force field enveloped the surroundings. Immediately, the weeds and gravel on the ground began to float. Rays of golden light flew out from the soles of Lin Muyu's feet and circled around his body. His supreme god force was like a monstrous wave that swept across the sky, and the golden waves caused his handsome short hair to flutter. He looked like a true god that had descended into the world. Good. Chu Chu nodded his head in admiration. It's really as the legend says. The spiritual lattice that Ayu possesses is the supreme lattice that all the gods in the heavenly realm yearn for even in their dreams. This kind of majestic power is really too amazing. However, it seems like you can only compare to the 10th heaven? Yes. Lin Muyu slowly retracted his god force back into his body and said, Every time I try to break through to the 11th heaven, the pain brought by the god wave is simply unbearable, so I don't dare to forcefully break through to the 11th heaven. You're doing the right thing. Chu Chu nodded his head. Forcefully cultivating will only harm your newly formed godly body. If the damage to your body is too severe, you will not be able to condense the god wall. No matter how strong your cultivation is, you will never be able to cultivate the god wall. Lin Muyu said, Then what should I do? More haste, less speed. Cultivation is about achieving success when the conditions are right. You have a supreme being Godhead, and although it can provide you with a vast amount of divine energy, the wave of God generated by the supreme being Godhead is naturally more difficult to cultivate. The pain it brings is tens or even hundreds of times more painful than a mortal's Godhead. You still have a long way to go, but Grandfather has a way to teach you. Oh? Chu, hurry up and tell me. Chu Chu rummaged through the space bag on his waist and found an ancient book. It was the kind of book that was written on parchment paper. However, the parchment paper was very finely divided into more than 10 pages. On the cover of the book there were 3 big words. Art of Cultivating Spirit. Chu Chu raised his hand and handed the book to Lin Muyu. He smiled and said, I have traveled all over the mountains and rivers in search of this continent's hidden treasures. Then I found this art of cultivating spirit. You take a look. Maybe this art of cultivating spirit will be useful for your cultivation. Lin Muyu held the art of cultivating spirit like it was a treasure. She raised her head and said, Chu, will this art of cultivating spirit really be useful for my cultivation? Of course. Chu Chu smiled and said, I have been cultivating the art of cultivating spirit for more than 2 years. Maybe I can show you my results. Okay. Lin Muyu smiled and nodded. She took a few steps back and let Chu Chu do what he wanted. Chu Chu still had his hands behind his back, standing in the same spot like an old man. Suddenly his clothes and white beard fluttered even though there was no wind. Streams of fiery god force seeped out of his body. Golden light flashed and waves of waves swirled around him. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. The 10th wave breakthrough. Chu-Chu's aura became even more imposing. His eyes were covered with a layer of golden light. The fiery waves around him increased in intensity. The 20th wave breakthrough. Chu-Chu's cultivation was already at the mid-level ultimate god. Though there's more. The golden light became more intense. The flames that Chu-Chu summoned were about to turn golden. The 30th wave breakthrough. A golden invisible barrier appeared around Chu-Chu's body. It was a divine wall. He could already condense a divine wall. Lin Muyu was stunned. She knew that Chu-Chu's cultivation was extremely strong, but she did not expect it to be this strong. Condensing a divine wall. What kind of cultivation was that? According to Ouyang Yen, the ability to condense a divine wall was obtained by chance. Less than 5% of the gods in the heavenly realm had obtained a divine wall. But Chu-Chu, a lower world god, had actually condensed a divine wall. It was really shocking. Ouyang Yen, who was not far away, was also shocked. Oh. My goodness, I thought that the old man was just a swindler, but to think that he's actually an expert who is capable of forming a divine wall. Zhou Xian exclaimed in astonishment. My goodness. Zhou Xian smiled. Fire Cauldron Chu-Chu is known as one of the Empire's twin paragons. His cultivation is naturally not low. But who's the other one? Great Deacon Lei Hong has died for his country. Oh. At this time Chu-Chu's forehead was already covered in sweat. He quickly retracted his energy and said, "All right, my old bones can't handle this anymore. Condensing a divine wall will consume a lot of divine energy. This heavenly Tao lattice of mine can't last for long. It's already very powerful." Lin Muyu was overjoyed. She held the spirit refinement art in her hand and smiled. "I can't wait to go back and cultivate. I've already broken through to the 10th heavenly cave." "Then let's go back." Chu-Chu smiled happily. Lin Muyu's thirst for power was very intense. Ever since he stepped into the god state, he had never been defeated. However, he was defeated by Yongli. The biggest reason was the disparity between their cultivation realms. Every attack of Yongli contained the impact of the waves of the 57th level of Grotto Heaven, while every attack of Lin Muyu's was only the wave of the 10th level of Grotto Heaven. "Wei Chou Generalson, let's go back," Lin Muyu said loudly. Everyone got on their horses and went straight back to the Longdan army camp. After returning to the camp, the first thing Lin Muyu did was to cultivate in seclusion. He locked himself in a stone house in the depths of the camp. He didn't even bring Ouyang Yen with him. Because he had the spirit refinement art, he didn't need Ouyang Yan's guidance anymore. Moreover, Ouyang Yen also needed to cultivate. Under the candlelight, Lin Muyu flipped open the art of cultivating the spirit and read it carefully. After reading it once, she was actually able to memorize almost every word clearly. Even Lin Muyu was a little amazed at how her memory was so strong. In reality, it was very simple. This was originally a kind of ability of God. The spirit refinement art was just a kind of mental cultivation method. It purely cultivated the state of mind. It was divided into 4 stages. The first stage of mind, calm like the wind. The second stage of mind, like walking into the abyss. The third stage of mind, like a dragon in the sea. The fourth stage of mind, thoroughly tempered. Lin Muyu repeatedly recited the method of the first stage of mind in his heart. Calm like the wind. As the name suggested, one shouldn't force oneself during cultivation. Instead, one should be like the wind. The wind didn't follow one's will and couldn't be forced. After reciting it continuously for dozens of times, Lin Muyu's restless state of mind gradually calmed down. He closed his eyes and let the divine waves in his body flow on their own. He only felt that the waves condensed by the supreme divine power flowed through the meridians of his arms, legs, head, and other parts of his body. It was neither slow nor slow like a trickle. Although the process was very slow, it was calm and comfortable. After a long time, the waves stopped near the Qihai. The waves became more and more vigorous. Finally, they made a natural impact on the profound latch in the Qihai. The first wave. Lin Muyu didn't rush to succeed. He continued to guide the waves in his body to flow back on their own. About half an hour later, the waves made a second impact on the profound latch. Although it was slow, the pain of cultivation was also reduced a lot. It wasn't until early in the morning that the waves in his body finally began to impact the 11th heavenly cave. The trickle formed a monstrous wave in the Qihai. Without any hesitation, it rushed to the profound latch. Suddenly, a sharp pain as if his body was being torn apart came from his body. Lin Muyu clenched his teeth and endured all of this with great difficulty. He only heard a bang sound coming from the depths of his body. The profound latch was once again opened. He was ecstatic. The supreme divine power of the 11th heavenly cave had been successfully cultivated. This art of cultivating spirit was indeed mysterious. He really didn't know where Chu Chu had obtained such a treasure. Just like that, 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. Lin Muyu's cultivation had improved greatly. His body had already withstood the impact of the 13th divine wave. He had successfully cultivated the supreme divine power of the 13th heavenly cave. Early in the morning, the sound of hooves could be heard in the autumn mist. A group of imperial soldiers appeared in the south of Heaven Connect City. "Who are you?" The patrolling soldiers of the Longdan army camp went to greet them. Among the crowd, a beautiful young girl dismounted from her horse. She was wearing the Spirit Medicine Department's Great Deacon's velvet white robe. She wore a long azure dress underneath. She smiled and said, "I am Chu Yao from the Spirit Medicine Department. Can you take me to see His Royal Highness Emperor Qin?" Chapter 665. Next to the self-made sand table, Lin Muyu inserted the small blue flags into the heaven gorge that the demon race was guarding. She frowned. The next step of the battle was none other than to use the heavy cannons to blast open the heaven gorge and annihilate the demon race in one fell swoop. If the demon race was not eliminated, the Empire would not be able to live in peace. "We have transported 100,000 tons of stalactite absorption rocks from Bronze Helmet Mountain and are cutting them into pieces. Don't worry, Your Highness. The sky curtain can no longer stop us," Wei Chou said respectfully. "What about the cannonballs?" Lin Muyu asked. "There are 50,000 left." Situ Shui smiled and asked, "Is it enough?" "No, at least 200,000 magic crystal cannons are needed to blast the entire Tongtian Gorge." Wei Chou, write a letter and send it to Winter Frost City. Ask Xiling and the others to speed up the production in 2 months. Yes. At this time a guard came in and said solemnly after a military salute, "Your Highness Chu Yao, the Great Deacon of Lanyan City's Spiritual Medicine Department, requests an audience. Do you want to see her?" "What? Chu Yao?" Lin Muyu was stunned. She threw away the small flag in her hand and rushed out of the tent. Outside, the sun was shining brightly. Chu Yao, who was wearing a velvet robe, was like a lotus flower coming out of the water. She looked at Lin Muyu with a refreshing smile. The joy of meeting after a long time was self-evident. Lin Muyu rushed forward and gave Chu Yao a bear hug. Chu Yao also opened her arms and hugged him. She said with a red face, "There are so many people here. What are you afraid of?" No one dares to make irresponsible remarks. Indeed, the entire empire knew that Lin Muyu and Chu Yao were like siblings, so no one would think too much about it. After spinning a few rounds with Chu Yao in her arms, Lin Muyu put her down with a smile. She had already sensed the faint Saint Realm aura on Chu Yao's body just now. She couldn't help smiling and said, "Looks like Sister Chu Yao's cultivation has improved a lot again." "Yes, but not as fast as you." Smiling, Chu Yao took a step back and performed a ladylike bow. "Congratulations, Your Highness, for defeating the demons and making a great contribution to the Empire." "Sister Chu Yao, don't make fun of me, it's just a small victory." Lin Muyu rubbed her nose and said, "Let's go, we'll talk inside." "Yes." The two of them walked into the tent and saw Chu Chu, who was sipping tea. Chu Yao was stunned and hurriedly saluted, "Greetings, Lord Chu Chu." "Oh, it's Yao." Chu Chu and Chu Yao's grandfather Chu Feng were close friends, so they were naturally familiar with each other. He said with a smile, "Yao, why did you come all the way from the imperial capital?" "Yes." Lin Muyu also asked, "Sister Chu Yao, why did you come here?" Chu Yao explained, "It's like this. Considering the lack of resources in Lingdong province and Tongtian province and the scarcity of medicine, a large amount of medicine has to be transported from Lanyan City all the way here, and half of the medicine will be lost on the bumpy road. Therefore, Lord Ayen and Lord Suyu decided to build a new branch of the Spiritual Medicine Department in the eastern region, so I, the Grand Deacon, recommended myself to build this branch myself. So, Sister Chu Yao will be staying here for a long time." Lin Muyu was overjoyed. Yes, with me here to disturb you, please don't find me annoying. No, of course not. After everyone took their seats, they began to talk about the reconstruction of Tongtian City. Since Winterfrost City had enough manpower, it was not a problem to rebuild Tongtian City. Moreover, the stone materials from the wreckage of the city were still there, so the main body of the building was ready. The only thing missing was some burnt wood and bricks. Lin Muyu was extremely protective of Chu Yao. Since the spirit medicine department wants to establish a branch in Heavenspan province, then let's establish it in Heavenspan City. Men, pass down my orders. The spirit medicine department branch will be built first in the city. Also, the sacred temple will be built first. After that, we'll build the city lord's mansion and merchant association. Wei Chou cupped his fists. Your Highness, rest assured. We have enough resources and manpower. The public buildings have long been rebuilt. The spiritual medicine department, the holy temple and the lord's mansion have begun to take shape and will be ready to move in half a month. In addition, we have built 1,000 circular houses, each of which can accommodate about 100 people. We can temporarily accommodate 100,000 people. That's good. Any movement from the demons? Oh. Okay. In the afternoon, after treating Chu Yao to a delicious meal, Lin Muyu began to deal with the military system of the Longdan army camp. There seemed to be many problems with the establishment of Kiliarchs and captaincy, which had been passed down in the empire for thousands of years. There were still a few positions missing between Kiliarchs and captaincy, such as 2,000 generals and 5,000 generals. These should be detailed. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to mobilize 10 Kiliarchs under a captaincy. Behind Lin Muyu, Qin Yu was standing on a branch and chirping happily. Chu Chu stood up and came to the wooden stand. He squinted his eyes and looked at Qin Yu. The heavenly Dao in his Yi-Hai flew like a shuttle. Suddenly, a telekinesis power shot into his Yi-Hai. Qin Yu, who was on the wooden stand, stared at Chu Chu and actually took the initiative to connect with the telekinesis power of Chu Chu, a hierarch who was well versed in the law of life. In the Yi-Hai, the clouds parted and Qin Yu flapped its wings and slowly entered. Suddenly, the feathers on its wings slowly scattered and turned into rays of light that gathered around its body. Its body rapidly grew and gradually turned into the naked body of a beautiful girl. It was Qin Yin, who was wearing a white dress. She stood in the sky above the Yi-Hai in astonishment and looked at everything around her as if she couldn't remember anything. Hua hua hua. The Yi-Hai surged violently and quickly separated into two torrents as if it was split by a sharp sword. In the middle of the torrents, an old man slowly walked out. It was Chu Chu's original body. His eyes were filled with love as he looked at Qin Yin in the sky. He couldn't help but tremble and said, "Xiao Yin, I didn't expect to see you here." Qin Yin seemed to have forgotten everything and murmured, You know me? Who are you? Has the burning pain of the 6 paths of reincarnation made you forget everything?" Chu Chu was distressed and said, "It's been hard on you, Xiao Yin. Every time you reincarnate, your soul will be crushed. This kind of pain must be very unbearable, so much so that you don't even remember who you are anymore." Qin Yin stood in the air blankly and said, "Who are you? Why are you saying these strange things to me?" "I'm fine." Chu Chu smiled and said, "It's time for you to understand everything." As he said this, Chu Chu suddenly stomped on the void with one foot. Instantly, a golden wave rushed out and turned into halos that surrounded Qin Yin. Chu Chu activated his divine power and pointed 2 fingers at Qin Yin and said, "You must have forgotten about Deacon Lei Hong and his art of returning God. Come, white-robed Chu Chu will help Her Highness break this reincarnation seal and let you remember everything." Boom. Countless divine powers were drawn out of Chu Chu's body and fell from the sky onto Qin Yin's body. Qin Yin immediately let out a muffled groan. She felt as if her soul was about to be cleansed from her body. She struggled with all her might, but she could not break free from the restriction of the God Restoration incantation. Beams of golden light burst out of Chu Chu's body, spinning rapidly and bombarding the area around him. Woo! Chu Chu spat out blood but didn't give up. He looked at Qin Yin fiercely and said, "Xiao Yin, are you still not going to wake up?" This shout gradually calmed Qin Yin, who was in a frenzy. She knelt in the sky and absorbed the heaven dragon crystals into her body. When she raised her head again, her eyes were filled with nostalgia and suffering. She said, "Lord Chu Chu, is that you?" "It's me, It's me. Chu Chu was about to cry. He knelt on one knee and said, Chu Chu greets your highness. Oh Chu Chu, where am I? In my Yi. Did your highness forget? Chu Chu's voice trembled with excitement. He said, after you died you escaped into the 6 paths of reincarnation. In this life you should be in the animal path. That's why you turned into a swan and stayed by Yu's side. Swan. Qin Yin suddenly burst into tears. The memory of Li Mingye from her previous life flashed through her mind. It was only at the moment of her death that she remembered everything. Only then did she realize that the fairy in front of her was Lin Muyu, whom she had longed for day and night. 2 streams of tears rolled down her cheeks. She choked with sobs and said in a sobbing voice, Ah Yu he. I miss him. Chu Chu's nose turned sour. He said, Your Highness, I'm useless. The art of returning spirit that I practiced is far from Lei Hong's realm. That's why I can only open your Highness reincarnation seal in my Yi. Once you step out of my Yi, your memory will be sealed again. You didn't even know you at that time. Forget it, forget it. Qin Yin wiped her tears and said, Lord Chu Chu, you don't have to worry about me. I won't see you. I don't want him to see me like this. He misses you too. Chu Chu raised his head and looked at Qin Yin. His voice was very soft and slow. He said that he wants to see you even in his dreams. He can only see you in his dreams. Xiaoyin, you must persevere. Don't be annihilated by the karma of the 6 paths of reincarnation. As long as you persevere, you will definitely be able to reform your godhood and return to Yu's side. Promise me never give up, okay? Qin Yin cried incessantly. She lowered her head. At this time the power of the art of returning spirit had begun to dissipate. It was too hard for Chu Chu to maintain this power. Qin Yin raised her head and said with tears on her face, Lord Chu Chu, take good care of my brother Yu. I will. Swoosh. A ray of light flew past. Qin Yin's body turned into a bird. She fluttered her wings and flew out of Chu Chu's Yi. Ah! Chu Chu's spiritual sense returned to his body. It was as if he had gone through a reincarnation. He couldn't help but take a deep breath. His body swayed a little as if he was about to be unable to stand firm. Are you okay? Lin Muyu saw some clues. I'm fine. Chu Chu looked at Qin Yu, who was still jumping around happily on the wooden frame. He felt a sense of loss in his heart. Should he tell Lin Muyu the truth? So what if he told her? Would he let him and Qin Yin continue to torture each other for love? Forget it, let it be like this. When their cultivation was about to be completed, there would be a day when they would meet again. He believed that the reincarnation of the heavens would not disappoint lovers. Chapter 666. Chu Chu, are you really all right? Lin Muyu could still see that Chu Chu's spirit sense had fluctuated greatly. For a divine realm expert, it was not an ordinary thing to have a calm heart. I'm fine, you don't worry about me. Chu Chu looked at Qin Yu on the wooden frame and couldn't help but say, You should think about how to fight the demons. I have a feeling that they won't sit still and wait for death. Since the demons have Yang Li, Pei Sun, Huang Yi and the other gods to help them, they will definitely do something. Yes, I'm also waiting for them to make a move. Lin Muyu nodded. At this time, as if to confirm their words, the sound of hooves could be heard from outside the tent. A messenger opened the tent door and entered. Your Highness, the demons have sent an envoy. He really came. Let him in, Lin Muyu said with a smile. Yes. Everyone sat down. Chu Chu and Chu Yao sat on either side of Lin Muyu. He suddenly felt very confident. He was finally not fighting alone in this barren land of Clear Sky Province. A quarter of an hour later, the demon envoys finally arrived from outside the camp. There were a total of 9 people, 4 armor demons and 5 high-level demons. One of them had a scepter and wore the insignia of the 5-star demon sect on his chest. There was a trace of pride in his eyes as he walked forward and bowed to Lin Muyu. The 3rd Legion's Vice Commander Huang Pu greets Your Highness King Qin. Huang Pu. Lin Muyu smiled and said, May I know why you have come to our camp? This general represents His Majesty the God King. Naturally, I have brought His Majesty the God King's decree. The Demon King. Wei Chou sneered. How can a person hiding in a corner be worthy of being called Divine Emperor? Your Emperor is called Divine Emperor. I wonder if the gods of the heaven realm recognize this Emperor? Being ridiculed by Wei Chou like this, Huang Pu immediately felt a bit embarrassed. His arrogant momentum also converged a bit as he glared at Wei Chou. However, the person in front of him was the famous Duke Wei of the eastern region. He was a famous general who had single-handedly commanded 200,000 troops in the Longdan army camp and fought against the demons for 4 years. A mere Huang Pu couldn't compare with him. Lin Muyu smiled and asked, "So what is the intention of your Emperor Shen Huang?" Huang Pu cupped his fists respectfully and said, "Reporting to your highness, the God King's intention is very simple. Our divine race and your empire have been at war for 7 years. The people have no way to make a living. War will only make the common people cry. Not only do the common people of the divine race suffer from war, I think the common people of the empire are the same. War will only bring death and tears, nothing else." Situ-Sin raised his eyebrows and said, "Don't forget, it was the demons who first launched an attack on the empire. Now we are giving them a tooth for a tooth. Are you saying that we are wrong?" "General, please calm down." Huang Pu was a man who knew how to speak. He said, "This time this general only came to bring peace." "Tell me what kind of peace?" Lin Muyu said. Huang Pu cupped his fists and said, "His Majesty the God King believes that there is only one way to end the war between the divine race and the empire. He wants the common people of both sides to no longer suffer from this kind of war." "What method?" "A martial arts competition." Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. "Tell me, what kind of martial arts competition is it?" Huang Pu said, "It will be a fair and just competition. The divine race and the empire will each send 5 experts to fight one-on-one. 3 wins out of 5. If the divine race wins, the empire must immediately withdraw all of its troops from Heaven Connect City, using the steel wall of Winter Ridge Province as the boundary. The empire will share the world with the divine race. If the empire wins, His Majesty the God Emperor will voluntarily lead all of his people to leave the Sky Gorge and settle in the snowy desert in the north." This. Wei Chou and Situ-Sin looked at each other in dismay. The bait given by the demon race was too big. They would hand over Heaven Connect Gorge. This was their lair. Originally, Lin Muyu planned to attack Heaven Connect Gorge 3 months later and destroy the demon race at the cost of the lives of 100,000 Imperial warriors and 200,000 magic crystal cannons. But now, as long as they won this competition, the demon race could withdraw from this war for supremacy without shedding a single drop of blood. "What do you think, Your Highness?" Huang Pu's eyes were sharp as he asked, subtly pressuring Lin Muyu. Chu Yao frowned and said, "It's good to resolve the war peacefully, but why do I always feel that the demon race is up to no good?" Huang Pu couldn't help but laugh. "Miss, you're worrying too much. His Majesty the God King's words are like gold and jade. Please rest assured." Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. "What is Your Highness smiling about?" "Nothing." Lin Muyu was still snickering. "What words are like gold and jade? Who do you think you're lying to?" In order to obtain the world, which monarch wouldn't say anything? Back then, Qin Yin even agreed to form an alliance with the Iha kingdom, but in the blink of an eye he sent Xianxia to attack the Iha kingdom's capital, Bailing City. Only a fool would keep his word in times of war. After carefully weighing the pros and cons, Lin Muyu said, "Are there any rules for this competition?" "Yes." Huang Pu said, "The competition is fair and just. You can't kill your opponent or else you'll lose. In addition, both sides can't bring more than 1,000 people to the competition. This is what His Majesty the God King said himself." "How about this?" Lin Muyu stood up and held onto the marshal's table. She smiled and said, "I know that 7 gods have come from the northern heaven realm. They are Yang Li, Pei Sun, Huang Yi and the others. They aren't part of your god race. If you really want to be fair, then Yang Li and the others can't participate in this competition. Only then can it be considered fair and just." This. Lin Muyu's words were undoubtedly a heavy blow. The demon race relied on the 7 gods. In 5 competitions, if 5 of the 7 gods participated, the empire would lose for sure. Huang Pu cupped his fists and said, "Yang Li is a distinguished guest invited by the god race, so?" His Majesty the God King said that Yang Li will definitely participate. The other 6 gods may not participate. "So it's like that," Lin Muyu muttered to himself, then said, "I agree to this competition, but Yang Li can only participate in the last match. If you agree, then it's settled." "The last match?" Huang Pu was stunned. "That's right, I will also participate in the last match." We have already decided on the number of participants. It cannot be changed. Lin Muyu's gaze was cold. He understood Yang Li's strength too well. It was safest for him to fight him. If it was someone else, they might be killed. All right then, Huang Pu said proudly. The 5 participants from the God race are the God King, the Saint Sovereign Yang Li, Marshal Qianfeng, and Her Highness Tang Xiaoxi. Sure enough, the demon race still sent Tang Xiaoxi. Lin Muyu's heart sank. He wrote down 5 names on the agreement and said, the 5 participants from our side are the Fire Cauldron Chu Chu, Ouyang Yan, Chu Yao, Sidu Sin, and me. Other than me and Yang Li, do you dare to fight each other on the spot? Why wouldn't I dare? Huang Pu signed his name on the agreement. There were 2 copies, one for each side. Then Lin Muyu sent people to escort Huang Pu and the others out of the camp. Why did you count me in? Chu Yao pouted and said guiltily, I'm just a Saint Realm cultivator. How can I be a match for the demon race's God Realm masters? There's no need to fight, just admit defeat. Lin Muyu looked at Chu Chu and Ouyang Yan and said, for the first 4 matches, our chance of winning lies with Chu Chu and Ouyang Yan. You have to win so I can deal with Yang Li in the last match. Chu Chu was stunned. You have the confidence to defeat Yang Li? Oh. Lin Muyu shook his head. Situ Sin glared at him. Why the hell did you agree if you didn't? Who said we have to fight with our lives on the line? Lin Muyu smiled faintly, stood up and walked to the sand table. A cold light flashed in her eyes as she said, I have never done a losing deal. There's no need to think about it, the demon race wants to kill me in this duel, but I won't let them do as they wish. Look, the duel will be held in the White Sand Slope. This is currently the territory of our empire and is under our control. The duel will be held half a month later, so we still have a lot of time. Wei Chou couldn't help but laugh. He had followed Lin Muyu for so long that he could see through Lin Muyu's thoughts. He cupped his fists and smiled. Your Highness, please tell me what you need. Here. Lin Muyu pointed and said, dig an underground tunnel from the river 5 miles away from White Sand Slope. Form a large circle and place bell-absorbing rocks in the tunnel to disrupt the God Realm Ranker's ability to travel through planes. Then bury a magic crystal cannon every 40 meters in the north. Since the 7 gods of the northern heaven realm dared to descend to the lower realm to court death, I can't not help them. Will the bell-absorbing rocks really work? Chu Chu asked doubtfully. Chu will know once we try. The bell-absorbing rocks can disrupt the magnetic field and distort the walls of planes. As long as we bury the bell-absorbing rocks under White Sand Slope, Yang Li and the others can only teleport to the northern periphery of the bell-absorbing rock's magnetic field in an instant. At that time we will launch the magic crystal cannon and create a chain of explosions. At least half of these 7 gods will die. Such a ruthless fellow. Ouyang Yan opened her rosy little mouth. Chu Yao also pursed her red lips and didn't say anything else. It seemed that Lin Muyu had already made up her mind to counterattack. Finally, Lin Muyu pressed her hand on the edge of the sand table and said, in this battle, no matter what, we must snatch Xiaoxi back. Yes. Wei Chou, Situ Sin, Fengxi and the others all gave an empire's military salute. Actually, everyone was very clear in their hearts that Lin Muyu's scheme and agreement to this duel, there was only one real purpose, to snatch Tang Xiaoxi back. Although this plan was filled with his own selfish motives, who could blame him? Chapter 667. In the afternoon, the Imperial Forest Military Academy's field was filled with the sounds of fighting and training. On the side of the forest, Chu Yao was cultivating under old Chu's guidance. If possible, she wanted to step into the Saint King realm and comprehend the King Do flame before the martial arts competition. That way, even if she couldn't defeat her opponent, her chances of escaping would be greatly increased. A few steel shields hung under the willow trees. Chu Yao was wearing a velvet robe as she flew around like a jade butterfly. Streaks of sharp energy pierced through the air, creating large holes in the shields. Within a few minutes, the shields were all destroyed. Chu Chu lightly stroked his white beard and smiled. Yao's cultivation is indeed different from before. The star-picking finger is soft and gentle, but when you use it, its power surpasses that of Chu Huayin's. Is that so? Chu Yao smiled happily. Chu, can my star-picking finger really compare to brother's? The pupil has surpassed the master. Chu Chu nodded. Not far away, Ouyang Yan lightly sat on a branch that was only as thick as a finger, but she didn't fall. She crossed her snow-white legs and smiled. Oh, Lord Chu Chu, don't praise her like that. I think it's just a small trick. There's no need to praise her like that. Be careful that she doesn't become arrogant and doesn't advance any further. What did you say, you woman? Chu Yao glared at her. It was obvious that Chu Yao had long since seen that this woman called Ouyang Yan was very intimate with Lin Muyu and had long since disliked her. This Ouyang Yan's actions were bold and unrestrained, and she didn't look like a woman from a good family. I said it. Ouyang Yan's lips curled up as she looked at Chu Yao with ridicule. I said that this star-picking finger is the wild fox Sen. What, do you want to teach me a lesson? Humph. Chu Yao angrily glared at her and said, I know you are a god king, but I'm not afraid of you. Yo, what an imposing and beautiful deacon. Come. I'll let you have one punch and one kick and I won't retaliate. I'll give you 50 moves. If you can leave even one wound on me, then I'll admit defeat and call you Sister Chu Yao from now on. How about it? Ouyang Yan rolled up her sleeves, revealing a pair of white arms. Chu Yao was so angry that her shoulders trembled. She gathered the power of the star-picking finger in her palm and said, Let's fight. This. Wei Qiu had originally planned to stay here to secretly learn the star-plucking finger, but he never thought that the two great beauties Chu Yao and Ouyang Yan would actually want to tear him apart. In that moment, his heart was filled with helplessness as he said, Master Chu Chu, are you not going to do anything about it? Wei Qiu stroked his beard and smiled. No problem. Of Chu Lord Chu I's clan you dons Wei I star Chu Yao Shan. Swoosh. Ouyang Yan descended from the sky and raised her arm in front of her chest. Suddenly, a flame condensed into a shield. Flame shield. This was one of Ouyang Yan's signature skills. The flame shield was formed from the pure power of the law of fire. Although its defense was far from comparable to the divine wall, it was more than enough to deal with Chu Yao's star-picking finger. Come on. Ouyang Yan smiled provocatively. You said you won't fight back? Chu Yao asked cautiously. Yes, I won't fight back. Otherwise it's my loss. Good. Chu Yao untied the belt in front of her chest and took off her velvet robe. She handed it to the beautiful alchemist Lan Yen, leaving only a thin dress on. The dress accentuated her beautiful figure. With a light wave of her palm, the saint energy turned into starlight and circled around her fingers. She suddenly shot out and attacked Ouyang Yan like a phantom. When a Saint Realm expert attacked, the power was extraordinary. In fact, the cold Saint Realm cyclone forced Wei Qiu, Situ Shui Bai Yin and the rest to retreat. Among the generals in the Longdan army camp, other than Situ Sin who had just broken through to the Saint Realm, the rest were still in the heavenly realm. However, Chu Yao had already reached the peak of the first heaven of the Saint Realm. In comparison, no one could compare to this delicate and beautiful spiritual medicine division great deacon. Swoosh. A cold wind swept past. The starlight pierced through the air and went straight for Ouyang Yan's shoulder. Ouyang Yan saw it clearly. She raised her body and easily blocked it with the flame shield in her hand. With a pft sound, the flame was like a flame that fell into an icy lake. There was a huge difference in strength between the two. Chu Yao's cultivation was indeed much weaker. After all, one was immortal, and the other was a god king who had already formed a young heavenly Dao lattice. Chu Yao did not retreat. Her 5 fingers moved quickly and the dazzling starlight exploded. In an instant she had completed at least 50 finger attacks with the star-plucking finger. Ouyang Yan could not help but be surprised. This little girl's strength was so strong, and her finger techniques were so exquisite. Fortunately she was a god king. If it was a saint venerable of the same level, they would probably not be able to block this powerful star-plucking finger. As expected, no one around Lin Muyu was easy to deal with. This Chu Yao was not simple. Bam. Her boots were surrounded by saint energy and she kicked the flame shield heavily. However, the difference in strength was too great. Chu Yao was sent flying a few steps back. Ouyang Yan's smile widened. Little girl, you can't do this. Qin King Lin Muyu is such a talented person. If this is all you can do, how can you stay by his side? This sentence seemed to have pierced a part of Chu Yao's heart that she did not want others to know. She became even angrier. She clenched her fist and starlight gathered in her fist. She punched the flame shield heavily. Bam! Finally, the flame shield, which had withstood so many attacks from the star-plucking finger, finally broke. However, at the moment it broke, Ouyang Yan's jade-like hand reached out from the flames. With a crisp sound, Chu Yao's fist collided with Ouyang Yan's palm. With just one blow, Chu Yao was immediately sent flying. The blood in her body was in turmoil and she almost vomited blood. Ouyang palm seemed to be light, but the strength in it was stronger than the previous one. In an instant, more than 20 layers of energy waves appeared, and it directly shattered Chu Yao's protective stellar energy. Fortunately, Ouyang had only used less than 20% of her divine power. Otherwise this palm would have more or less killed Chu Yao. After all, the difference in strength between them was too great. Chu Yao's face was filled with indignation. You said you wouldn't fight back. Ouyang was taken aback. She hurriedly retracted her palm and smiled apologetically. Sorry, I couldn't control myself. Who asked your star-plucking finger to be so powerful? I couldn't help but want to try it. Didn't you say that the star-plucking finger is the wild fox Zen? No, I was just joking. Ouyang repeatedly apologized. After all, she also knew that this Chu Yao was Lin Muyu's favorite. If she really touched her when Lin Muyu found out, she would definitely not be able to bear the consequences. That fellow's heart was very evil. Chu saw it clearly. He knew that Ouyang only used about 10% of her strength and didn't hurt Chu Yao's heart. He said, all right, the competition ends here. It won't be too late to challenge Ouyang after Yao steps into the god state. Yes, Grandpa Chu. Chu Yao bowed respectfully to Chu. Ouyang looked around and said, where did His Highness Emperor Qin go? He didn't say. Wei Chou said in a low voice. His Highness only said that he went out to cultivate and might not return for 2 or 3 days. He told us to guard the camp and prepare for the competition. Chu smiled slightly. There's still half a month before the competition between us and the demon race. Yu naturally wants to take advantage of this time to cultivate and break through. After all, he knows that with his current cultivation he is definitely not Yang Li's opponent. Ouyang nodded. A trace of helplessness flashed across her beautiful eyes. As a divine king, she knew all too well how difficult it was to cultivate in the god state. Many people cultivated for thousands of years and still couldn't break through a small grotto heaven. There was a gap of 46 grotto heavens between Lin Muyu and Yang Li. How much could she break through in a mere 15 days? She was afraid that breaking through from the 11th grotto heaven to the 12th grotto heaven would already be very lucky. However, on second thought, Ouyang felt that Lin Muyu might be different. After all, he was a freak with a unique comprehension ability and a supreme disposition. Anything was possible when it came to him. The Ice Dragon's freezing pond was a cold pond located 100 miles southwest of Heaven Connect City. The pond was surrounded by snow all year round and the accumulated snow was as high as a person. A few miles away from the pond was the warm autumn. It was strange that the temperature in the Ice Dragon's freezing pond was at least minus 50 degrees Celsius. However, the water in the pond never froze. There had always been a rumor that there was an ancient dragon race living in the Ice Dragon's freezing pond. It was very terrifying and ate humans and livestock. This was how the Ice Dragon's freezing pond got its name. At this moment, the green water of the Ice Dragon's icy pond was motionless, like a clear mirror. In the depths of the pond, faint starlight was faintly flickering. If one were to look carefully, one would be able to see a young man calmly lying in the depths of the pond with his body stretched out. Streams of star power were densely surrounding his body. His eyes were closed, and the surface of his body was suffused with golden waves that were circulating on their own. This was none other than Lin Muyu, who was using the spirit refinement art to cultivate the God's Wave. The power of the God's Wave was too vigorous and surging. Moreover, Lin Muyu possessed the divine power of the 12 laws. Therefore, when he cultivated the God's Wave, his body would often fall into a chaotic and hot state. His endurance towards the impact of the waves would be greatly reduced. Therefore, Lin Muyu found such a method. He found an extremely cold place to cultivate. This way, he could maintain his calm in the cold and his endurance towards the impact of the God's Wave would also be greatly increased. When the 12th God's Wave was born in his body, it slowly circulated and began to attack the profound entrances of his dantian. Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel a little irritable. However, the penetrating cold that came from the surface of his body allowed him to maintain his calm. That God's Wave constantly attacked and tempered his meridian's endurance towards the divine power. This process lasted for nearly half an hour. Finally, with a schwa sound, an energy ripple spread in the pond. This also meant that he had failed in his cultivation of the 12th level of heavenly abode. Lin Muyu slowly opened his eyes. A pair of starry eyes flickered with a faint golden light in the depths of the pond. He sighed. Chapter 668. Could it be that there was something wrong with her soul-refining art? Lin Muyu's heart was filled with doubts. She had been practicing the soul-refining art's first technique very strictly. She had even been lying in this cold pond for an entire day and night without eating or sleeping. She had only been relying on the little bit of air in the pond to maintain her vitality. However, there wasn't even the slightest ripple in the pond. Could it be that there was a problem within Zerofeng? Looking up at the sky, it was completely dark. It should already be nighttime. At this moment, a strong golden light suddenly bloomed in the sky. Waves of divine oracle Sanskrit echoed in his ears. This scene seemed familiar. It was the divine oracle. The divine oracle's light shone right into the cold pond. As expected, it was looking for him. In the next moment, he heard a very sweet woman's voice. You, the soul-refining art doesn't only have the first realm. It was Xiao's voice. Lin Muyu couldn't help but be excited. Fairy Xiao, Chu only cultivated the first level of the soul-refining art, but he cultivated it to the 30th level of the heavenly abode. Why can't I? Xiao giggled. Because your godly power-bearer is a supreme being lattice. Each wave of the godly power you derive is at least twice as strong as Chu-Chu's heavenly Dao lattice. Therefore, you won't be able to make a big breakthrough with just the first style of the soul-refining art. Try the second style, like walking into the abyss. Also, I have a gift for you. It might be beneficial to your study of the soul-refining art. Oh. At this moment, a golden light pierced through the sky from the divine oracle's light and fell straight into the ice dragon's wintry pond. The golden light gradually dissipated. It was a piece of azure wood about the size of a fist. It floated above Lin Muyu's chest, emitting a faint blue energy. What is this? Lin Muyu was stunned. Xiao giggled. This piece of wood is called twin flowers. Twin flowers. Lin Muyu laughed. Don't lie to me. This is just a piece of wood. How can it be called twin flowers? Xiao sighed. But this is wood refined from the essence of the twin flower's roots. That's why it's still called the twin flower in the heavenly realm, also known as the red spider lily, and the other as the datura flower. One is called the red spider lily, and the other is called the datura flower. According to the Buddhist scriptures, the datura flower blooms for 1,000 years and wilts for 1,000 years. The flower and leaves will never meet. Therefore, the red spider lily also tells of a kind of sentiment. When the red spider lily blooms, the flower blooms on the other shore. When the flower blooms, there are no leaves, and when the leaf grows, there are no flowers. Longing for each other but not being able to see each other, they walk the path to the other shore alone. Lin Muyu was startled and was speechless. Xiao seemed to sense his bewilderment, so she said with a smile, "Ah, you don't think too much. The fate between you and little Ian hasn't been extinguished, and so long as you pursue it, you'll be able to obtain karma. Didn't you cultivate bitterly precisely for the sake of breaking the cycle of reincarnation and bringing little Ian back?" Lin Muyu was silent. Xiao was too smart. Almost every word she said was on his mind. All right. Xiao laughed softly. Activating the oracle requires a large amount of divine power. Moreover, I have to bring a parcel for you. Make good use of this red spider lily essence. This essence can wash away the impurities in your body. It is very effective in cultivating the god's tide, at least in the hierarch realm. You must cherish it. Don't underestimate this small piece of red spider lily essence. In the heavenly realm, this is also a treasure. A small piece of it requires 10,000 red spider lilies to refine. The demon emperor spent 200 mortal qualities to help you get this piece of essence. Lin Muyu was dumbfounded. This small piece of essence was actually so precious? Moreover, the 7 luminaries demon emperor actually used mortal qualities to trade. Was there a mistake? Was godhood the currency of the heavenly realm? This was too unimaginable. Thank the demon emperor for me. Thank you too. Xiao, after I ascend, I will treat you to good food. Sure. Xiao giggled. I have long wanted to eat the stewed noodles under the southern heavenly gate. When you arrive, you must treat me. It's a promise. All right, it's a promise. Also, that cast immortal quality is still being refined. I believe it will be completed soon. When it's done, I will give it to you like this. There's no need to give it to me. Just give it to Feng Jixing. All right. I will go now. You continue to cultivate hard. All right. As the divine oracle slowly dispersed, Lin Muyu was still pondering over Xiao's words. Stewed noodles under the southern heavenly gate? Can't be. Could it be that there are still people doing business in the heavenly realm? However, after thinking about it carefully, although gods could not eat for a long time, they could not go without eating for a year and a half. It was reasonable for there to be hawkers selling stewed noodles. However, she did not dare to imagine a god with a chest full of hair-rubbing noodles. In front of her chest, the energy of the red spider lily's essence was slowly dissipating. Thus she had to hurry up and cultivate. She could not waste the good intentions of the demon emperor and Xiao. Silently reciting the spirit refinement art's second form's incantation, like stepping into the abyss. It was different from the first form's calm like the wind. Like stepping into the abyss took the initiative, which was to take risks. When one was unable to break through for a long time, they had to circulate their godly power on their own. It was as if they were walking by the side of the abyss. Taking the unconventional path was the essence of the second form. After circulating the supreme godly power in her body and forming a wave, it flowed through her 8 extraordinary meridians. According to the mental cultivation method, this wave formed a torrent. It flowed forward and backward in her meridians. This repeated over and over again, continuously increasing in strength. In the end, it formed an attack on the profound entrances. This was a form of destruction to the meridians. Not long after, Lin Muyu felt an intense pain in her meridians, as if they were about to be torn apart. However, at this moment, the energy dispersed by the red spider lily's essence slowly seeped into her body and fused with her blood vessels. It produced an extremely clear feeling that continuously alleviated the intense pain. It even seemed to strengthen the endurance of her meridians. Lin Muyu was overjoyed. She hurriedly circulated her mental cultivation method and used all her strength to attack the 12th wave. The waves in her body surged violently, as if her entire body was about to explode. The water in the pool also surged violently. Finally, with a pu sound, a wave of air rushed into the sky. This was the result of the turbid aura being extracted. Lin Muyu lay quietly in the pool. She opened her faint golden eyes and looked at the starry sky. The red spider lily's essence in front of her chest was still emitting energy. Success. With the help of the red spider lily's essence, she actually broke through the profound entrances in one go. In her chi-si, 12 divine waves were surging and surging. The divine power of the 12th layer of the heavenly abode had been successfully cultivated. Lin Muyu was overjoyed. She didn't think too much about it and immediately entered cultivation again to attack the 13th wave. Her opponent was simply too strong. Yang Li was a peak stage divine king, a super expert with 57 layers of waves. Her mere 12th layer of waves wasn't even enough to fill the gaps between his teeth. In these 15 days she had to make some progress. At the very least, she couldn't waste the red spider lily's essence that the 7 luminaries demon emperor and Xiao had given her. Just like that, time passed day by day. With the help of the red spider lily's essence, Lin Muyu broke through the 12th wave on the first day. However, the 13th wave's cultivation took him 3 whole days. After that, he used 5 days to break through the 14th wave. The 15th wave was a small watershed, and the red spider lily's essence was about to be used up. There was only a fingertip left. Lin Muyu had failed to break through the 15th wave after more than 10 attempts. She had just stepped into the god realm and her body was undergoing slight changes. Her newly born body was still unable to withstand such a strong impact. Even her mouth and nose were bleeding, and strands of blood seeped into the depths of the pool. As the sun rose and set, Lin Muyu calculated the time. There was only 1 day left before the Empire and the Demon Race's martial arts competition. She had to break through the 15th layer of the heavenly abode today. Waves rose and fell within her body, and very soon, Lin Muyu gathered a total of 15 waves. Boom, boom, boom. The waves in her body surged into the sky, constantly crashing against the profound entrance. However, the profound entrance was like an iron wall. Lin Muyu had already realized that her attempt to break through this time had failed again. However, at this moment, the water at the bottom of the cold pool suddenly surged, and there seemed to be a low, angry roar of a ferocious beast. A pair of azure blue light flickered from a corner at the bottom of the cold pool. It was a pair of eyes that belonged to the dragon race. It was a dormant azure frost dragon, and there was no aura at all in its deep sleep. Lin Muyu didn't even sense that a behemoth was sleeping 100 meters below her. However, the impact of the soul-refining arts waves was at a critical moment. What should she do? For a moment Lin Muyu wanted to die. It must be her blood that awakened this ferocious beast. However, she couldn't be disturbed at this time, so she could only look for help. "Catasaurus, come out!" he roared. Snap! A bolt of lightning flashed in the depths of the pool, and the spatial wall was pulled open in the blink of an eye. A Catasaurus roared and pounced on its opponent. Its opponent also swam out from the depths of the pool. It was a azure frost dragon at least 10 meters long, and its size was 3 to 5 times that of a Catasaurus. It was too terrifying. Roar! The azure frost dragon opened its bloody mouth and spat out thick frost, instantly freezing the crimson crystal dragon along with the water in the lake. F***CK? Lin Muyu was dumbfounded. She watched helplessly as the azure frost dragon suddenly opened its mouth and bit her naturally extended arm. One of the azure frost dragon's front teeth broke off. It was only a 2,000-year-old spirit beast. How could it eat a supreme god so easily? However, in a moment of desperation, Lin Muyu produced an inexplicable anger from the bottom of her heart, and she drove the waves of God in her body to attack. Boom! A miraculous scene happened. The waves of God that were about to fail actually succeeded. The profound gate instantly shattered and 15 waves surged violently in her energy sea. Bang! In the depths of the pool, a Catasaurus suddenly twisted its body and broke all the ice crystals. It opened its mouth and bit the azure frost dragon's tail, directly tore off a piece of meat and chewed happily. This guy actually started eating? The prey is not dead yet.